Chapter 101. Pippi, stop licking me. I haven't gotten enough sleep yet. The fisherman muttered in a daze. Woohoo! The husky Pippi changed from licking with his tongue to patting the fisherman's face with his paws. Ouch! Pippi, do you want to be beaten? Finally, thanks to Pippi's efforts, the fisherman opened his eyes and saw pairs of eyes surrounding him through the morning mist. A pair of tigers. Another pair, also from tiger. Now, the fisherman was completely awake and quickly sat up. Only then did he remember that he was not sleeping in a big bed at home, but in the wild, with a family of tigers around him. Ahem, good morning, fellow tigers. The fisherman coughed twice and then spoke hesitantly. Ah! Cang Nian ignored the fisherman's greeting and raised his right paw expressionlessly, pointing at tiger brother beside him. Oh! I see. I will heal this tiger master's injuries right now. The fisherman understood the action immediately. He immediately stood up and started to cast spell on tiger brother's claws. Command. Heal. A series of spells drained the fisherman's blue bar. He leaned against the tree trunk and gasped for breath. And tiger's eyes lit up as he was healed time and time again. It felt that its broken right paw was much more comfortable. Then, tiger brother gently touched the ground with his right paw holding the splint. It doesn't hurt so much anymore. Now, tiger brother was even happier, and the tip of his tail was spinning slowly in the air. It looks like after a few more times, I'll be able to walk normally. Seeing this scene, Cang Nian nodded. Ah! Immediately, he looked at the fisherman, nodded his head towards the depths of the jungle, and called out. Then he followed Tiger Dad and walked into the depths of the forest. Are you asking us to follow, Pippi? The fisherman murmured suspiciously. Woof! The husky Pippi barked and nodded. Walking in the jungle, Cang Nian did not dare to let down his guard. The area patrolled yesterday was less than 1/10 of the territory previously covered by Cang Nian's family. After all, no one knows where a big treasure will pop out from in this new territory that is not very familiar to begin with. Therefore, the overall moving speed was very slow, and the surrounding environment was explored as carefully as possible. As for bringing the fisherman along, it was just in case. Now there is only Tiger Mom and the injured tiger brother at home. As for the character of the fisherman, Cang Nian could only say that he had a superficial understanding of him, but he was not yet trustworthy enough. Tiger moms need to be alert to possible dangers around them that may be harmful to their tiger brothers. With an unidentified fisherman and the husky Pippi, things become a bit difficult. Although it seems that Tiger Mom's current weight of 280 kilograms is already close to the maximum level of a male tiger before the spiritual energy revival tide. But Tiger Mom's superpowers are just virtual images and do not enhance her combat power. As for the fisherman's ability, if he was not so pure and immature, it might be an extremely comprehensive ability. And there is the husky Pippi, who is now about the same size as me. Before, when the fisherman was mumbling to himself, Cang Nian heard it. Before he and Pippi came to his home, they encountered several wild dogs. The wild dogs in the wild are probably wolves. Being able to kill or repel the wolves without suffering any injuries when surrounded by them, the fisherman and Pippi's strength should not be underestimated. Therefore, it is better to keep these two unstable factors with you. Whoosh! Upon sensing small prey such as hares, pheasants, and marmots around, Cang Nian shot out like a sharp arrow. No prey he sets his sights on can escape. Ding! Kill a prey, killing skill proficiency +1. 5146/10,000. After killing the prey easily, Cang Nian let the Black King Snake eat it. The Black King Snake's digestive ability is blessed by supernatural powers. The fish it ate last night has been completely digested. This little tiger is incredibly fast. If it were on the plains, it would probably be able to compete with a cheetah, right? The fisherman was amazed to see Cang Nian hunting so easily. Yesterday, Cang Nian was already running very fast. But now, the speed that Cang Nian bursts out when hunting is truly astonishing. It's like lightning. Pippi, why don't you catch a rabbit? We can roast it when we get home. Seeing Cang Nian hunting so easily, the fisherman was a little tempted, and then looked down at Pippi. Woohoo! Pippi shook her head and whimpered. It's just a pet dog, not a hunting dog. How is it possible to catch up with those fast-running rabbits? Moreover, its fur is a bit thick, so it gets very hot when it runs. It doesn't work. Pippi. Just listen to Daddy. I believe you can do it. Why don't you try concentrating your superpowers on your feet? Maybe you can increase your speed? Try it now. Otherwise, how can we get out of this forest without Tiger Lord and his friends? Are you going to starve to death? The fisherman half squatted down and encouraged. Oh? What kind of power does this husky have? Hearing this, Cang Nian's ears twitched and he turned his head to glance. He took the fisherman and Pippi with him, and wanted to see what the purpose of the special abilities of this master and pet was. After all, there are many dangers in the wild, and strange evolved creatures pop up from time to time. It's normal that the fisherman and Pippi encounter non-fatal dangers because they are not on guard enough. They will definitely use their special abilities to protect themselves. At that time, I will be able to see what their special abilities look like. Awoo! Hearing the fisherman's words, Pippi tilted his head, as if thinking. Then, it closed its eyes, as if trying to follow the fisherman's instructions and concentrate its supernatural powers on its feet. Crack! The next second, an arc of electricity flashed on the husky's body. Crackling, crackling. Then, the arcs became more numerous and moved downwards. Yes, yes, that's it. Pippi. Imagine that the electricity is attached to your paws and propels you to run. Come on. Try it. Seeing that Pippi could really control the electric arc downwards, the fisherman was quite excited and continued to give orders. Hearing this, Pippi opened his eyes, and arcs of electricity flashed in his sapphire-like eyes. Woof! Then, it rushed forward, with sparks and lightning along the way. However, Cang Nian could see that the little guy's speed did not increase, it was just that the special effects looked cool. Chapter 102. It turns out that Pippi's ability is lightning. No wonder he was able to come here without getting hurt despite being besieged by wild wolves. Looking at Pippi who was running to his side, Cang Nian opened the system panel and moved the 5 attribute points in the speed column of the numerical engineer section to defense. Then he stretched out his paw and tried to touch Pippi. As a result, the electric arc looked powerful, but it was actually just for show. It crackled and fell on his body, making Cang Nian feel a slight tingling sensation on his fur as if his fur was electrocuted by friction. Obviously, now that the spiritual energy has just revived, Pippi's lightning ability has basically no killing power. However, this is quite useful when dealing with wild animals in the wild. Just like humans use torches to drive away wild beasts, Pippi's cool electric arcs look intimidating. Therefore, there is no need for a head-on fight. All you need to do is wrap the electric arc around your body. Few wild animals dare to actively attack such a strange creature. When being touched by Cang Nian's claws, Pippi didn't dare to move at all and could only curl up into a ball. It even wanted to retract the electric arc so as not to anger Cang Nian. But because of its tension and fear, more electric arcs were released from its body, illuminating the dark forest. This is the fear of top predators that runs deep in our blood. Seeing that Pippi was very scared, Cang Nian stopped teasing it and turned around to continue patrolling the territory. Hey, it seems like the anime is all a lie. Superpowers like lightning can't speed up. At this time, the fisherman trotted over to Pippi, soothed it with his big hands, and muttered something. There were not many surprises during the subsequent patrol of the territory. After all, the only creatures in the wild that can threaten the Siberian tiger are brown bears and extremely large wild boars. Even after the spiritual energy revival tide, many creatures gained strange superpowers, and some of the awakened superpowers were quite impressive. But because everyone's evolution level is not high now, even if they have superpowers, they will not be too powerful. Just like the little sable's ability is space, but the current means is only a storage space. Just like the husky Pippi, his lightning ability is undoubtedly the most lethal one, but now it is just a simple special effect, and its lethality is only slightly stronger than the sparks in a lighter. Therefore, for the time being, it is still difficult to rely on powerful supernatural powers to make up for the gap between originally weak creatures and top predators like tigers. Therefore, at this time, Cang Nian's family's dominance in this habitat was still quite stable. Methods like exploding mushrooms may cause some trouble to Cang Nian, but they are just troubles, not threats. By noon, they had already patrolled half of this larger territory, and Cang Nian and his party arrived at the lower reaches of the river. There are many animals coming to drink water along the river. Coincidentally, the group of elk from yesterday were also drinking water here at this moment. But after seeing the tiger father, the group of elks quickly fled in the same direction and did not dare to stay there. Seeing this, the tiger dad raised his chin, swaggered to the river, and bent over to drink water. Hey! By the way, I killed a big fish yesterday and gained 100 points of proficiency in the slaughter skill. Now I can actually verify whether hunting prey larger than me can gain proficiency corresponding to my weight. Looking at the groups of herbivores gathering by the river to drink water, Cang Nian's heart became lively. However, he did not act rashly. He knew very well that if he hunted for the first time, he would not have a second chance. Just like after Tiger Dad killed the elk yesterday, all the herbivores around ran away. Even if you are extremely fast, it is almost impossible for you to kill a prey that is much larger than yourself and then catch up with other prey that have run far away and hunt a second time. Therefore, the prey must be chosen carefully. The body cannot be too small, otherwise it would be a bit of a loss. The body cannot be too big. If you can't handle it yourself and the opponent breaks free from the restraints, you will get nothing. So, Cang Nian looked around and finally found a prey that met his needs. It was a female sika deer in a herd of sika deer. It weighs about 70 kilograms, almost 3 times as much as I do. But the sika deer has a slender and agile body, and is not known for its strength, but for its speed. In addition, the fur of sika deer is thinner, so it is easier to bite through the throat, making it easier to hunt compared to other prey of the same weight. Of course, that's because Cang Nian can crush the opponent in speed, so hunting such a target will be easier. If it were any other adult tiger, perhaps a young elk of the same size would be easier to deal with. After getting a little closer to the opponent in the dense forest, Cang Nian didn't use any stealth skills and just ran wildly. Whoosh! Cang Nian was like a sharp arrow shot from a bow, bursting out at an astonishing speed, running towards the female sika deer in the herd. Before the opponent had time to react, the distance between Cang Nian and it had suddenly shortened to 30 meters. At this moment, it discovered with horror that a tiger was approaching it to such a dangerous distance. Then, its slender forehooves alternated left and right, and it started running wildly to the side in panic. But by this time, it was too late. In just 1 second, Cang Nian shortened the distance of 30 meters to 0. Then, he suddenly swooped down and appeared accurately on the path of the sika deer that had just started. Then, he quickly adjusted his posture in the air, and his claws popped out, piercing deeply into the opponent's fur and muscles. The next moment, he quickly controlled the numerical master in his mind and moved the speed attribute that was not needed at the moment to the strength attribute. Awoo! Finally, he opened his mouth wide, revealing his sharp and slender fangs, and bit down with ferocious force. Snap! There was no obstacle and Cang Nian bit off the fragile larynx of the sika deer with one bite. As he bit the deer, the thin hair on its neck was torn, the arteries around its throat ruptured, and blood gushed out. Cang Nian could even feel the airflow twitching in its throat. This is the sika deer's desire to breathe and its instinct for survival. But at this moment, its breathing can no longer deliver oxygen-filled air into its lungs. Then, the lack of oxygen made its brain gradually slow down, and the excessive blood loss made its heartbeat gradually weaker. Bang! It finally fell down. Ding! Kill a prey, killing skill proficiency plus 75. 5275/10,000. At this time, the surrounding sika deer realized that their companion had fallen to the ground and was unable to get up. On his body was a tiger that was obviously far from an adult. Chapter 103. Yo! Noticing this little tiger, it killed its companion. A huge male sika deer not far away let out a loud deer cry. Its weight exceeded 250 kilograms, which was completely impossible before the revival of spiritual energy. Tap tap tap. It ran towards Cang Nian angrily, wanting to attack Cang Nian. But Cang Nian also knew that he was no match for a sika deer of this size, so he immediately released the throat of the dead female sika deer and quickly dodged. At this time, Tiger Dad, who was drinking water by the river, also noticed the situation here and immediately stood up. Tap tap tap. Seeing Tiger Dad stand up, the huge male sika deer was frightened, immediately regained its senses and slammed on the brakes. Not to mention that Tiger Dad reached a terrifying weight of 500 kilograms after the spiritual energy revival tide. Even the Tiger Dad, who hasn't mated with the Tiger Mom yet, can easily deal with this little thing. So the male sika deer turned around and ran away without looking back. Ah! Seeing this, Cang Nian finally felt relieved and shouted at the Black King Snake in the dense forest. Upon hearing Cang Nian's order, the Black King Snake turned into a ruthless eating machine, opened its big mouth and started eating. Being fed without restraint by Cang Nian, its size grew very fast. Now it was obviously bigger than at the beginning of the spiritual energy revival tide. Therefore, swallowing a sika deer, which is not as slender and regular as the big fish yesterday, is quite easy. I thought this little tiger could only hunt prey smaller than itself, but I didn't expect it to be able to easily catch prey several times larger than itself. This is a natural-born hunter. When it grows up, is there any prey it cannot hunt? The fisherman was even more amazed when he saw Cang Nian kill a sika deer weighing more than 70 kilograms so easily. Cang Nian caught the big fish yesterday underwater and he had no idea about it. But now, he had watched with his own eyes as the sika deer was dealt with. This extreme speed, this precise attack, this neat bite. No unnecessary movements, no mistakes. It's simply a small killing machine. So, what is this little tiger's superpower? Pure speed? No, its strength is not commensurate with its size. Is it something like physical enhancement? You can't become stronger just by exercising, right? After admiring Cang Nian's perfect hunting, the fisherman became more curious about Cang Nian's special abilities. However, Cang Nian's ability is not like his and Pippi's, which have obvious special effects and are difficult to judge. Snap! Just as the fisherman was guessing, Cang Nian heard a crisp sound coming from beside him. Turning around, I saw a long crack on the black king snake's forehead. This startled him and he ran over to see. However, after a closer look, it was discovered that the black king snake's head was not cracked, but the skin made of scales on its body was cracked. Seeing this, Cang Nian tried to use his claws to pry open the cracks and easily peeled off the skin shed by the black king snake. It turns out that it is growing too fast and needs to shed its skin. Cang Nian then remembered that when he was raising snakes online in the video, the snake's skin had a certain degree of elasticity, but such elasticity was far from enough for a growing snake. The faster it grows, the more the original snake skin will restrain the snake's body, so new skin will be generated under the old skin, and then mucus will be secreted between the two layers of skin to lubricate and shed the old skin. Now, the black king snake has eaten a lot of food in the past 2 days. With its devouring ability, it has grown rapidly. The old skin has already restrained it, so it naturally needs to shed its skin. Perhaps, on the night of the spiritual energy revival tide, the black king snake had already shed its skin once. It's just that we were forced to sleep at the time and didn't notice it. At this time, Cang Nian remembered that the black king snake's body size increased more significantly on the night of the spiritual energy revival tide, so he began to speculate. Squeak! Seeing Cang Nian peeling the skin of the black king snake, the little sable also learned to do it with his claws. Seeing this scene, the fisherman also became eager to try. After all, once you overcome your natural fear of snakes, the black king snake's dark appearance is indeed handsome. However, it is such a big fish after all. Although it was quite docile during the brief contact last night, the fisherman still doesn't dare to take the risk. It took some time to help the black king snake shed its skin, and then wait for it to digest the sika deer in its stomach so that its forehooves would not puncture its belly. Only then did Cang Nian lead the team to continue patrolling the territory. This devouring ability is really powerful. In just half an hour, even hoof bones can be digested. Cang Nian sighed in his heart. After walking for a while, a thin strip suddenly popped up from the bushes next to Cang Nian. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and jumped to the side without thinking too much. Awoo! But then, Cang Nian heard a whimpering sound. It's the husky Pippi. When he turned around, he saw a rather sturdy snake that had bitten Pippi on his hind leg and had just let go. Compared to the black king snake, this snake is naturally much smaller. But its body is as thick as an adult's wrist. And, more importantly, this guy has black and white patterns on his body and a triangular head. Woohoo! Pippi, who was bitten, whimpered in pain and fell to the ground, unable to move. Pippi! The fisherman on the side yelled. Snakes are animals with round heads, so they are more likely to be non-venomous. A snake with a pointed head, especially a triangular one, is almost certainly a venomous snake. And Pippi's condition undoubtedly confirms this. The first target of this poisonous snake was Cang Nian, but Cang Nian dodged it with his nimble speed. Then, it set its target on Pippi who was following behind Cang Nian. But Pippi didn't have Cang Nian's sharp observation skills, nor such amazing speed, so he was immediately hit. At this time, the poisonous snake raised its head, as if ready to attack the fisherman. You beast! I want you to die for Pai Pai! Order! Speed! Seeing the snake so arrogant, the fisherman shouted loudly, and then a faint light covered him. Then, he quickly squatted down, pulled out the dagger from his calf, and slashed at the poisonous snake fiercely. Clang! With the help of his supernatural powers, the fisherman's speed increased a lot, and he was able to chop the poisonous snake's body with one knife before the snake could react in time. However, the knife failed to cut it off, but instead made a sound of metal clashing. This result made the poisonous snake even more unscrupulous, and it shook its head and moved towards the fisherman. A defensive superpower? Do you really think I can do nothing to you? Command. Armor breaking. Seeing this, there was no fear on the fisherman's face. He shouted again, and then a layer of light golden light attached to the dagger. Whoosh! The dagger cut through the air and slashed towards the poisonous snake. Chapter 104. Swish! With the sound of rag being torn, a bloody hole appeared on the poisonous snake's iron-hard scales. Although he failed to cut it off with one blow, compared to the previous time when he couldn't break the defense, the fisherman's dagger was obviously much stronger after he added a buff to his own dagger. Hiss! The venomous snake that was scratched by the fisherman lost all its previous calmness and composure. It no longer moved towards the fisherman, but retreated to the rear. Want to run? Too late. Seeing this, Diao snorted coldly and rushed forward. With the help of the two previous laws, his speed became much faster, and the dagger in his hand could also break the opponent's defense. Naturally, he would not give up. With just 3 steps and 2 strides, the fisherman caught up with the retreating poisonous snake. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Then, he danced the dagger in his hand very skillfully, and in a few strokes, the poisonous snake was cut all over and bleeding. Swish! Finally, he seized the opportunity when the opponent was seriously injured and stabbed the venomous snake's body directly with a dagger from the part where the defense was broken before. And that is the heart of the venomous snake. That's the most vital point to hit the snake. After doing all this, the fisherman ran back to Pippi without even having time to pull out his dagger. Law. Heal. Law. Heal. Law. Heal. Without any hesitation, the fisherman used his last 3 times of releasing his supernatural powers on Pippi. In fact, during previous battles, he was able to give himself a layer of defense to prevent himself from being bitten by venomous snakes and poisoned. But he didn't. This is not only a trust in his own strength, but also a desire to keep one more law that can be used to treat Pippi. Woo! But in the end, after 3 light green lights flashed on Pippi's body, Pippi just whimpered but did not recover. Apparently, the poison of this venomous snake is too strong, and the fisherman's ability is all around, and he is not an ultimate expert in healing. Moreover, now that spiritual energy is just beginning to revive, his level of evolution is not high enough and the power of his supernatural powers is limited. Even his speed and the effect of breaking armor surprised Cang Nian. The fisherman was not stupid enough to suck out the poisonous blood with his mouth, but squeezed the wound where Pippi was bitten with his fingers. A lot of the black and poisonous blood was squeezed out, but no normal fresh blood flowed out. Although the fisherman ended the fight quickly, the venom of the venomous snake exploded even faster. Pippi, cheer up! You must not die! This result made the fisherman's eyes red and he wailed miserably. Seeing this scene, Cang Nian also felt uncomfortable. This is why he has been so cautious when patrolling the territory during this period. There are always some seemingly insignificant animals that have the means to threaten large predators after evolution. Although the proportion is very low, if it happens once, it will be life-threatening. Cang Nian actually has no friendship with Pippi. However, the fisherman had helped him unintentionally before, and because of his love for the fisherman, and the fact that Pippi was a rare husky with a well-behaved personality, Cang Nian still liked him. But I didn't expect that the accident would come so quickly. There is no evolved creature on my side that has the ability to detoxify, so I am powerless. Hiss. But at this moment, the black king snake moved. It stretched out its thick tail and pushed away the fisherman who was unwilling to give up and continued to squeeze Pippi's wound, causing it to bleed. Then, it opened its bloody mouth and swallowed Pippi's head. This time, even Cang Nian was a little confused. No? It's not cold yet. It would be bad to eat it in front of the fisherman, right? What are you doing? A hole. Pippi is not dead yet. You can't eat it. Damn it. I'm going to fight you to the death. Law. Ahem. Seeing this, the fisherman was stunned for a moment, then completely ignored his fear of the huge size of the black king snake and shouted. But he had used up all 5 uses of the law in a short period of time. He shouted the law again, spat out a mouthful of blood, and knelt on one knee with his body trembling. Bang bang bang! Even so, he still beat the Black King Snake's body with his fists. However, to the Black King Snake, his attack posed no threat at all. The speed law he had initially imposed on himself had disappeared. And the armor-piercing command was still on the dagger, and the dagger was still stuck in the poisonous snake. Thinking of this, the fisherman immediately stood up, turned around to pull out the dagger from the poisonous snake, then came back to attack the Black King Snake and rescue Pippi. Woohoo! But at this moment, a muffled whimpering sound came from the Black King Snake's big head. Pippi? Pippi! Hearing the sound, the fisherman quickly turned around and shouted. At this time, the Black King Snake raised its head and opened its mouth. Snap! Pippi fell out of the Black King Snake's mouth all wet. Woohoo! But then, Pippi stood up, ran to the fisherman and licked his cheek. Pippi? Are you okay? Seeing this, the fisherman thought he was dreaming. But the familiar feeling of Pippi licking his cheek made him know that he was not dreaming. Pippi, who was almost poisoned to death just now, is alive and kicking again. Regardless of the sticky and smelly smell on Pippi, the fisherman held Pippi tightly in his arms, fearing that he would lose it again. It took the fisherman a while to recover and realize that it was the Black King Snake that kept Pippi alive by holding it in its mouth. Thank you. Thank you. He didn't know what to say, so he just kept thanking the Black King Snake. Seeing this, the Black King Snake tilted its big head to one side, not wanting to pay attention to the fisherman, this face-changing monster. However, the tip of its tail swaying casually showed that it was not in a bad mood at the moment. By the way, although the Black King Snake is not poisonous, it can ignore the toxicity of all snakes. This is why they are called king snakes. Although they eat mice as pets, they actually feed on snakes in their original habitat. They even like to eat poisonous snakes. Therefore, their saliva should contain substances that can destroy any components of snake venom. It held Pippi in its mouth, allowing its saliva to come into contact with the snake venom in Pippi's body, thus destroying the venom. So Pippi can wake up. Cang Nian, who was standing aside, suddenly realized. Then, Cang Nian saw the Black King Snake slowly come to the side of the poisonous snake, touch the fisherman with the tip of its tail, then point at the poisonous snake and open its mouth. It was asking the fisherman if it could feed it the poisonous snake. To the Black King Snake, this is prey hunted by a fisherman. It would be impolite to eat it without telling him. It is a polite snake. Of course you can. Eat if you want, Mr. Snake. I'll pull out the knife. The fisherman understood the clear meaning of this action immediately and nodded quickly. This is Pippi's lifesaver, no, the lifesaver snake. How could he refuse such a small request? Chapter 105. Woof! Pippi shouted happily and got very close to the Black King Snake. After a thrilling episode, Pippi was no longer as afraid of the Black King Snake as before. After all, dog's IQ is not low to begin with. After evolution, Pippi naturally understood that it was the Black King Snake that saved his life, otherwise he would have died now. So, why should Pippi be afraid of the snake that saved his life? After seeing this, fishermen are no longer so afraid of Black King Snakes. Yesterday I thought that this fisherman only had a simple healing ability, and that those things he said were just a manifestation of his middle school spirit. I didn't expect this guy's ability to be so powerful. At this time, while Cang Nian remained alert to the external environment, he was also thinking about the fisherman's special abilities. I originally thought this guy could only be funny, but I didn't expect him to be so amazing. Even if we ignore the blessing of supernatural powers, his fearlessness in the face of danger and his skillful use of dagger are not something that ordinary people can do. And his special abilities are even more powerful. This can almost be said to be true. Whatever follows the decree will determine the effect it will have. Law. Treatment. It is to heal the injuries. Order. Speed up. Just speed up. Command. Break armor. It makes it easier for weapons to break through armor. The effect is simple and crude, but powerful. This is simply an all-powerful superpower. If you count it up, none of his family, even including the little sable and the Black King Snake, seems to have a supernatural power that can be compared with it. Even the little sable's spatial ability is useless. However, the more powerful the ability, the greater the restrictions. This decree is so omnipotent and powerful that when the fisherman first awakens, he can only use it 5 times within a short period of time. I wonder if it will still be only 5 times as I grow older. Cang Nian was quite envious of the fisherman's special abilities. However, there is no way. Whatever supernatural power he has, it has been fixed after he woke up after the spiritual energy revival tide. There is no restriction on the use of my own numerologist, while the fisherman's command can only be used 5 times in a short period of time. It is hard to say which one is more powerful, it depends on how it is used. Forget it, I still have the system. With cheats and hard work, I don't believe I can't beat the European emperor. Cang Nian gritted his teeth and encouraged himself in his heart. The rest of the journey was quite smooth. With the experience of the poisonous snake as a lesson, Cang Nian and his group became more cautious. Therefore, even if there were things that might cause trouble before, Cang Nian and his party discovered them in advance and either avoided them or were prepared to trigger them and then kill them. In this way, many strange small evolved creatures were dealt with along the way and many dangers were eliminated. It looks like they are consciously trying to eliminate threats from their territory. Was this started after the revival of spiritual energy? This family is so smart with such a plan, right? However, Pippi has also become much smarter. It is not difficult to understand why animals have an IQ close to that of humans after the revival of spiritual energy. I don't know what's going on in Khan. On the night of the spiritual revival, there was a major earthquake. Khan is not in an earthquake zone, and the buildings were not built in accordance with the building codes of earthquake zones. I'm afraid many people will be killed. However, the earthquake occurred in the evening, not yet nightfall, and most people should have just gotten off work or school. My parents are probably playing outside too, so they won't be buried by the building. Cang Nian was thinking, and the fisherman was also thinking. Although he acted cynical, he just kept his worries deep in his heart. After all, he can't even protect himself now, and it is still a question whether he can return to the human town. Today, after following Cang Nian and his party to inspect the territory, he realized that even if he possessed a supernatural power like law, it would be almost impossible for him to return to Khan. Today's patrol of the territory seems far, but it is actually less than 30 kilometers. But even in such a short journey of less than 30 kilometers, we encountered numerous dangers, big and small. Even, Pippi almost died once. How far is this place from Khan? The fisherman doesn't know. He only remembered that when he set out from Khan and arrived at the fishing spot, the odometer of the pickup truck had reached more than 300 kilometers. As for the straight line distance, it might be much shorter, but the terrain in the snow-capped mountains of the northeast is complex and the roads are rugged. If he really walks, it is impossible for him to walk in a straight line. So it is very likely that he will need to walk more than 200 kilometers of mountain roads to return to Khan. Of course, that is assuming that we can figure out the exact location of Khan. Now, the earthquake has destroyed many man-made things, and with the rampant growth of various plants, the northeast snow ridge, which originally had few signs of human beings, has completely turned into a primitive jungle. What's even more frightening is that there seems to be something wrong with the geomagnetic field. When the compass is placed horizontally, the needle will just spin around. The fisherman can no longer tell the direction. He only remembered that the river where he came to fish was a tributary of the river Cam, and that he should be able to find Khan by tracing its source. With me now, even with Pippi, there is absolutely no way I can return to Khan. So I'd better follow the tiger family and practice my superpowers. Wait until you become stronger before considering returning to Khan. At least I have to wait until I release my law more times. Otherwise, if we use 5 laws every time we encounter danger, then Pippi and I will be lambs to be slaughtered if there is another danger. Uncle Chin is looking after my parents, so as long as order remains intact, nothing will go wrong. I have to think about staying alive first, before I can think about going back. Today's experience has given the fisherman a deeper understanding of the current environment. And his plans have also changed. Originally, he just wanted to go straight to Khan and return home as soon as possible. But now, he has realized that the wilderness is no longer as safe as before, and he can drive around in a small pickup truck. Oh! At this time, the fisherman heard a familiar cry coming from the front. When I looked up, I found that I was back under the big tree in front of the waterfall. Tiger Brother was raising his head and calling Cang Nian and Tiger Father excitedly. Hearing Hooty's call, Cang Nian walked over calmly. This time, Tiger Brother learned his lesson and did not roar at Cang Nian. Instead, he looked at little Sable with eyes full of anticipation. It knew that its brother took the little sable out to catch prey. So if there is something delicious, it must be at the little sable's place. Boom! As the silver light flickered, the elk meat that was not eaten yesterday fell to the ground, still steaming hot. In the little sable's storage space, time should be frozen. After eating yesterday, the little sable put the elk meat away. The Cang Nian family eats very quickly. Even the tiger dad, who has the biggest appetite, can wolf down 100 or 200 kilograms of meat in just a few minutes. Oh! Seeing that there was no new prey, Tiger Brother's excited face fell. Bang! Ding! Tier 1s, Tier Skill Proficiency +1. 4777/10,000, Cang Nian slapped Hootie's butt in annoyance. I really spoil you. There are still so many left, why do you need new prey? Woo! The tiger brother who was slapped by Cang Nian whimpered in grievance. Looking at the happy scene of the tiger family, the fisherman's mouth corners slightly raised, and the look in his eyes became more determined. Chapter 106. 40th Day of Birth. Command. Heal. Command. Following the series of orders from the fisherman, light green spots flowed on Tiger Brother's right paw. Oh! As the light faded, Tiger Brother excitedly waved his right paw a few times. Then, it placed its right paw with the splint removed on the ground, tested it carefully at first, and continued to push when it felt no pain. Bang bang bang! The tiger brother stomped his paws hard on the ground, shook his ears, and his eyes lit up. It doesn't hurt anymore. It's really good. Tiger brother was so happy to be able to jump around again that he rubbed his noses with Cang Nian, Tiger Mom and Tiger Dad respectively, and then excitedly crawled under Tiger Dad's 4 strong arms. Oh! At this time, the tiger dad raised his paw and gently pressed the fisherman's chest to express his gratitude. The fisherman kept his promise and cured Tiger Brother within 3 days, and now it has been successfully completed. During these days, the fisherman and Pippi have become quite familiar with Cang Nian's family. Even when Tiger Dad's huge claws were pressing on his chest, the fisherman was not that scared. The fear of wild beasts comes not only from their own strength, but also from the unknown fear of whether they will hurt themselves. Living together during this period made the fisherman realize that although the Cang Nian family are all ferocious beasts, they are all very friendly. Master Tiger, you don't have to thank me, this is what I should do. However, I have a request, I wonder if you can agree to it. The fisherman patted his chest and asked weakly. Oh! Hearing this, Cang Nian expressed doubt. Well, you should know that I live in a human city far away. I want to go back now, but I have been patrolling the territory with you these days, and I know that after the revival of spiritual energy, there are many dangers in the wild. If I rush back now, I will probably be killed by some powerful evolved creature before I get even a third of the way. The fisherman did not treat Cang Nian's family as wild beasts at all. Instead, he treated them as if they were human beings with normal IQ and mature thinking, and talked to them. Ah! But before he could finish his words, Cang Nian interrupted him and shook his head. I can't walk back by myself, so I have to ask my family for help? Do I have to escort him back myself? Has this fisherman been with his family for too long and forgotten that they are ferocious beasts? Pushing the limit. Don't even think about it. Mr. Tiger. You may have misunderstood. I don't want you to send me back. I just want to stay with you for a while. I want to continue following you to patrol the territory and hone my strength. I will wait until I become stronger and have the strength to walk out of this jungle and return to Khan, then I will set off again. Look, is it okay? Seeing Cang Nian interrupting his request, the fisherman instantly understood the reason and hurriedly explained. After spending these few days together, he has a good understanding of the positions of each member of Cang Nian's family. Tiger Dad is the one with the fighting power. With its huge size and powerful abilities, it has no rivals in this jungle. Tiger Mom is a gentle person. She takes care of her little brother Tiger all day long, showing her motherly love. But when facing the Tiger Dad, she is not so gentle. Cang Nian is the intellectual leader. Whatever the Tiger family does is entirely decided by Cang Nian alone, and the other ones hardly give it any thought. As for brother Tiger, he should be the one who is responsible for making fun of others, or the one who is responsible for eating. He looks fierce and alert all day long. According to the fisherman's observations during this period, with the Tiger Father's terrifying fighting power, the injuries on the Tiger Brother's claws could not have been caused by other creatures. If nothing unexpected happens, this should have been done by Brother Hu himself. Every night when he returned home from patrolling the territory, Tiger Brother couldn't wait to eat meat. Moreover, its appetite each time is huge, almost half of its body weight. After eating, it becomes a round tiger ball. The fishermen even wonder if Tiger Brother's belly will be burst. Stay with us for a while. This request is not too much. On this side, Cang Nian listened to the fisherman's real request and began to ponder it in his heart. During this period, the fishermen took Pippi and Cang Nian to patrol the territory every day, and the strength they demonstrated should not be underestimated. Having such a team member can cope with more troubles. Moreover, the fisherman's ability law is very comprehensive and can adapt to any environment and situation. Finally, human hands can do many things that other creatures cannot do, and with the help of fishermen, things can be much more convenient. In addition, after spending some time together, Cang Nian got to know Diao Lao better and had a clearer understanding of his character. Especially when Pippi was almost poisoned to death by a venomous snake, the fisherman showed his true feelings at that time. If it's all acting at other times, then it's not possible to act at this time. A person who values feelings will never be too bad. However, although Tiger Dad and his friends are too lazy to think, such an important decision still needs to be discussed by everyone. So, Cang Nian moved his gaze to Tiger Dad and the others' faces and looked into their eyes. Oh! Not surprisingly, Tiger Dad and the others had no objection to Cang Nian's decision. They have spent these days together, and the fisherman has not made them feel uncomfortable or unhappy. In this case, it doesn't matter if he continues to stay. After getting the unanimous agreement from the tiger family, Cang Nian looked at the fisherman and nodded. I agree to your request. Thank you, Tiger Lords. Thank you, Snake Lords. Thank you, Mink Lords. Don't worry. Pippi and I will definitely not cause any trouble for you. We will also hunt for ourselves and will not eat your food for free. Seeing that Cang Nian agreed, the fisherman thanked him repeatedly. Woof! Pippi on the side stamped his paws, barked happily, and his tail swung like a windmill. After deciding that Diao Lao and Pippi would continue to stay with his family, Cang Nian turned his head and looked at Tiger Mom and Tiger Brother. Today we can finally patrol the territory together. Before, after dealing with the wild boar family, there was some dried meat to guard at home, and Tiger Mom couldn't leave. Later, when Tiger Brother, this silly guy, just awakened his special powers, he broke his claw and had to let Tiger Mom stay with him. Now, there is storage space for the little sable, and Tiger Brother's claws are healed, so he doesn't need to guard the house anymore. A family of tigers, all moving together in an orderly manner. Hearing Cang Nian's call, Tiger Mom nodded happily. Because of Tiger Brother, Tiger Mom can only stay by his side to protect him, and she has been exercising less these days. I can finally go out. Oh! But when Tiger Brother heard the news, all the excitement he had about his right claw recovering disappeared. Are you going to patrol the territory again? I don't want to move. Thinking of this, Tiger Brother couldn't help but raise his paw. Or get hurt again? But thinking of the severe pain of the broken bone, Tiger Brother couldn't help but shudder and shrink his neck. Seeing the look on Tiger Brother's face, how could Cang Nian not know what was going on in that little head of Tiger Brother? Bang! Ding! Tier 1s, Tier Skill Proficiency +1. 5200/10,000. Chapter 107. Ouch! Tiger Brother, who had been paralyzed at home for several days due to a broken right paw, started complaining in pain not long after he came out. It now misses the days when it was injured. However, Tiger Brother, who was afraid of pain, still did not have the courage to hurt himself again and let himself get hurt so that he could continue to stay at home. Listening to the Tiger Brother's ugly howling, Cang Nian came to it and reminded it to control the strength when using its supernatural powers and not to be stupid enough to be hurt by its own supernatural powers. Afraid that Hu didn't understand, Cang Nian even changed the way he said it and repeated it several times. Cang Nian didn't let it go until Tiger Brother completely understood. We have gained a lot these days. After giving instructions to Brother Hu, Cang Nian opened the system panel with great satisfaction, watching the steadily increasing skill proficiency on it. The biggest gain is that I have reached the 4th level of swimming skills. With unremitting efforts, it has evolved to the 5th level. The new skill is called Treading Waves. Like the sprint skill, it has a total of 100 levels of proficiency, and each level of proficiency is a full 100,000 meters. And it is already the 5th level of skill sprinting. Each level of proficiency has 100 kilometers. A total of 10,000 kilometers of mileage is required to evolve to the next stage. It has been 14 days since I acquired this supernatural power. During this period, Cang Nian slacked off on his exercise a little when he met the wild boar family, but he was basically very self-disciplined at other times. Even when patrolling the territory during the day, Cang Nian did not just walk a small circle around the territory. Instead, during each patrol of the territory, after ensuring that there were no problems for a section of the journey, he would turn back and run. So, in a whole day, the patrol route seemed to be only a few dozen kilometers, but Cang Nian actually walked a distance of 200 kilometers. And when it gets cooler at night and you do some exercise, the speed will be even faster. After this period of training, Cang Nian can now maintain a speed of 40 kilometers per hour for a long time. This is close to the tiger's maximum speed before its spiritual energy was revived. Therefore, apart from sleeping and other time spent practicing skills at night, Cang Nian can still run another 100 kilometers. Therefore, he has now stabilized at the rate of increasing his sprint skill proficiency by 3 levels per day. Although the sprint skill is only at level 35 now, it is foreseeable that in about 20 days, the proficiency of the sprint skill will be fully reached, ushering in the qualitative change that Cang Nian has been waiting for a long time. In addition, several other most useful skills have also made significant progress. For example, if you reach the 3rd level tearing skill and your proficiency accumulates to 5,200 levels, you can evolve it by half a level. Cang Nian even wanted to slow down his other skills and use his claws to pat the animal hide first to max out this skill. After all, we can't just rely on Tiger Brother to stack up the proficiency of this skill, right? The ground pulling skill, which also reached the 3rd level, improved even faster and now has reached more than 8,000 levels. However, this is also normal. Compared to the tearing skill that requires deliberate attack, the initial skill of the pulling skill is jumping. When he usually patrols his territory, he would jump a lot, cross some bushes that are difficult to pass through, and climb trees to check the situation in the distance. In addition, the previous spiritual energy revival tide has significantly improved the proficiency of the 3rd level skills. Therefore, the skill closest to the next evolution is still the ground pulling skill. After that, it's time to improve your skills. The climbing skill has a total of 100 levels of proficiency, and 1 level of proficiency is climbing 1000 meters. This is not a difficult thing for Cang Nian. But even for the evolved pine tree, which is now over 100 meters tall, it still takes 10 times to complete this level of proficiency. Therefore, Cang Nian would always bring this skill with him when he trained every time. But up to now, there are only 80 floors. After that, the proficiency in slaughtering skills improved, which was quite gratifying. After determining that when hunting prey larger than himself, he could increase his proficiency levels according to his weight, Cang Nian began to consciously hunt such prey. And with Cang Nian's speed, the prey he targeted had no chance of escaping. After all, after so much training, his maximum speed is almost comparable to that of a cheetah, and there is no creature on land that can run faster than a cheetah. Even though its spiritual energy had revived, the cheetah's speed was still quite dominant. At least, Cang Nian has not seen any creature that runs faster than himself. During his daily patrol of the territory, when he arrived near the river at noon, Cang Nian would hunt large prey. Cang Nian's targets are all around 100 kilograms in size, so that with his strength, he can complete the hunt while also gaining as much proficiency as possible. Every night, Cang Nian would kill fish for the black king snake in front of the waterfall. Of course, if he finds a suitable target for hunting while swimming downstream, Cang Nian will not spare his energy to hunt one. For this reason, he specifically told the black king snake that if he did not come back in half an hour, it should go downstream along the river to look for him. In this way, once you hunt your prey, you can just stay there and wait for the black king snake to come and eat it. It was also through this method that Cang Nian had gained more than 1,000 points of proficiency from large prey alone in the past 3 days. Now, the proficiency of the slaughtering skill, combined with the skill of killing fish, has reached nearly 7,000 points. What is even more amazing is that the black king snake can digest all of this prey in just 3 days. Of course, black king snakes are not just for eating. With the blessing of the devouring ability, it can both eat and grow. In just 3 days, it shed its skin again, and its width reached 45 centimeters. Cang Nian was somewhat suspicious that this guy might have surpassed Tiger Dad in weight. Snakes may look very long, but their weight is actually much lower than people imagine. Just like the pet black king snake that is as long as a human forearm, it actually only weighs a few dozen grams. But now the length of the black king snake is estimated to be nearly 30 meters. It is not just long in appearance, but its weight must be also very astonishing. What made Cang Nian happiest was that, perhaps because of the revival of spiritual energy, or perhaps because he had been eating evolved meat almost all the time, his body size grew very fast. In just 3 days, he should weigh 40 kilograms. However, he was growing up, and his younger brother Tiger was growing up too. Perhaps because he had eaten too much and had not exercised during this period, a thick layer of fat had accumulated on his body. Cang Nian estimated that he should weigh 80 kilograms and was already heading towards 100 kilograms. Master Tiger. Something is wrong. Just as Cang Nian was counting his catch during this period like a hamster, the voice of the fisherman came from the front. Chapter 108. Oh! Hearing the fisherman's reminder, Cang Nian let out a puzzled cry. With his extremely clear eyes, extremely sensitive ears, and even his quite good sense of smell, he didn't notice anything unusual. This area looks fine with big trees and bushes, but there is no life, no animal life. The fisherman looked around vigilantly and spoke carefully. Animals anger. Hearing this, Cang Nian quickly sensed it. There are no animals in sight. The only sound my ears could detect was the rustling of leaves. There was no sound of insects chirping, birds singing, or even the footsteps of small creatures in the jungle moving quietly across the ground. Originally I thought it was only like this in a small area, but when Cang Nian climbed to the top of the tree and listened to the sounds around him, he found that it was also like this. The bird with the widest range in the jungle had no one passing by. This is definitely not normal. Then, Cang Nian twitched his nose a few times, but did not detect any smell of dead animals or rotting corpses. This is even more abnormal. Generally speaking, the jungle seems quiet, but in fact, in hidden places, battles are taking place, and fights between eating and being eaten. Although most hunters will eat their food once they catch it. But there will always be larger prey with bones and residue attached, which hunters cannot eat and are too lazy to pick out the little bits of meat. This is the case with Cang Nian's family, but now with the black king snake, even if it is a big creature like an elk, the remaining bones can be corroded and digested by the black king snake's powerful stomach acid. But other animals always leave some parts, and they will not swallow the prey whole like snakes do. They will always leave some residues, which emit a slight stench in the jungle and attract scavengers such as flies to come and clean up. But now, even this kind of foul smell doesn't exist in this area anymore. Master Tiger, my advice is to withdraw now. There must be some powerful guy here, and his methods are very strange. Let's retreat and find out how big this area is, then we can use prey to lure that thing out and eliminate this danger. While Cang Nian was thinking, the fisherman whispered a suggestion. He knew very well that the Cang Nian family was expanding their patrol area in circles in order to eliminate threats in their territory in a blanket manner. Apparently, there were 2 adult tigers, 2 rapidly growing cubs, a black king snake of astonishing size, and a sable with spatial abilities. Such a lineup naturally cannot tolerate the existence of creatures that threaten them in their territory in the wild. Hearing this, Cang Nian nodded in agreement. Anything that can cause such a large-scale devastating blow is definitely not a good thing. So, it's better to be careful. Ah! So, Cang Nian looked at Tiger Dad and the others and gave a signal to retreat along the same route. After evolving, the Tiger Dad and his friends had become smart enough to fully understand that the fisherman's concerns were not groundless, so they nodded, surrounded the Tiger brother, and carefully evacuated. Woof! But at this moment, Pippi suddenly screamed. Cang Nian would never ignore any situation at this time, and looked over quickly. I saw thin white silk threads shooting out from under the thick humus on the forest floor, and some of them had already pierced Pippi's body. And this is not the end, more silk threads popped out from under the dead branches and leaves and stabbed towards Pippi. Woo-woof! Seeing this, Pippi bared his teeth and barked, backed away repeatedly, and pulled off the thin white silk thread that was tied to his body with a bang. Snort-sniff! However, this is just the beginning. After Pippi tore the thin white silk thread apart, as if a command was issued, densely packed thin white silk threads popped out from the ground and stabbed towards all the creatures present. The strength of these thin white threads is not very high, and even an underage husky like Pippi can tear them apart. But there were too many of them, and soon they surrounded Cang Nian and his group. If a person with trypophobia saw the densely packed thin white threads, he would probably faint on the spot. And all of them were like mosquitoes and flies that had been hungry for who knows how long, scrambling to stab and entangle the living things present. Seeing this, the fisherman quickly pulled out his dagger and slashed at the thin white silk thread that was entangled towards Pippi. Bang bang bang! However, those thin white silk threads seemed fragile and could even be torn apart with a little force, but they were surprisingly difficult to cut when hit with a knife. Just by cutting 2 or 3 layers of thin white silk thread, the force that the fisherman had used to chop was completely removed. Law! Cut! Seeing that Pippi was about to be entangled and wrapped by those thin white silk threads, the fisherman shouted softly. Then, the dagger in his hand was covered with a layer of light golden light. Swish! Then he swung the dagger again to save Pippi. Finally, with the help of the law, the thin white silk threads entangled around Pippi broke layer by layer, and the fisherman was able to pull Pippi out. At this time, the fisherman took a closer look and saw that the thin white silk threads that were tied to Pippi's body had been stained with a layer of blood red. They were 5 or 6 centimeters long. He pulled them towards the source of the thin white silk threads. This thing draws blood. There are no animals in this area, it just sucks them. The fisherman shouted loudly and informed Cang Nian's family of the information. Pippi! Cover yourself with your superpowers. Quick! Then the fisherman quickly said to Pippi. He couldn't hold Pippi all the time, he wouldn't be able to fight like this. But he estimated that Pippi's lightning ability should have some effect. Crackling, crackling. After hearing the fisherman's order, Pippi remembered that he had special powers to use, and quickly made electric light flash on his body. Dense electric arcs flowed across Pippi's body, causing all its hair to explode. And this, indeed, works. When those thin white threads came into contact with the electric arc on Pippi's body, they immediately shrank back and dared not attack Pippi. Master Tiger! You can use your power like this. This way it won't dare to attack you. Seeing that Pippi's lightning ability was effective, the fisherman quickly looked at Tiger Dad and gave a suggestion. Tiger Dad's special ability allows him to attach a layer of pitch-black flames to his body. Although the temperature is not very high for the time being, since Pippi's lightning is useful, Tiger Dad's fire should also be useful. However, Tiger Dad ignored the fisherman's advice. Bang bang bang! As the muscles in Tiger Dad's strong arms flexed, the thin white silk threads that were attacking Tiger Dad were all broken, without causing Tiger Dad any trouble at all. Then, Tiger Dad slowly tore off the thin white silk thread on Tiger Brother's body. As for Tiger Mom, even though her superpowers have nothing to do with combat, she can completely ignore such attacks thanks to her strong physique. I was overthinking it. Looking at the fierce appearance of Tiger Dad, the fisherman felt ashamed. Chapter 109. What the hell is this? Is it an evolved creature? No, how long has the spiritual energy been revived? There shouldn't be such a huge individual. What on earth was this thing before the spiritual energy was revived? Cang Nian, who was on the tree, looked down and was extremely confused. However, compared to the brutal creature that he had imagined killing all the animals in an area, this thing didn't seem that powerful. It can suck blood, but it doesn't seem to inject any neurotoxins or anything like that into the body. Although it is huge in size, its strength is not as unmatched as one might imagine. But, this thing came out from underground, so why aren't there any birds in the trees? Seeing that the situation was not urgent, Cang Nian gently grabbed the branch with his claws and rubbed it, thinking in his mind. Snort sniff. But at this moment, thin white threads from the tree trunk next to him pierced towards him. He dodged it easily, and Cang Nian's pupils suddenly dilated. Turtle! Does this cover the entire surrounding area? Looking at the originally brown tree trunk that turned into pure white, Cang Nian felt a little numb. This thing has chameleon-like camouflage. Moreover, it is far more than the size that surrounds Tiger Dad and the others. It's this vast jungle with no signs of animal activity. Ah! Seeing this, Cang Nian quickly jumped down from the tree and roared at Tiger Dad and the others. Retreat quickly! Then, as Cang Nian moved, pure white color quickly spread from the trunk of the tree. On Cang Nian's side and on Tiger Dad's side, 2 pieces of pure white connected together and were still spreading further away. What the hell? What the hell is this? The fisherman who saw this horrifying scene spoke in a trembling voice. Now he understood why this thing was not very strong, but there was no sign of animal activity in such a large jungle. Because, such a large area is filled with this thing. It completely covers the area. As long as you go deep into this area, you will be constantly attacked, pulled, and your physical strength will be consumed by this thing. Even large animals can easily break this thin white silk thread. But if I can tear it apart once, what about 10 times? What about 100 times? It would take more than 100 attempts to escape from here. This is a pure white ocean that drowns and swallows all animals. When the tiger father, tiger mother, tiger brother, black king snake, and little sable heard Cang Nian's cry, they hurriedly retreated the way they came. But this makes the attack of this thing even more ferocious. The thin white silk thread rose several meters high, stabbing, sucking, and entangled Cang Nian and his group. Faced with such an attack, it was difficult for Tiger Dad and Tiger Mom to protect Tiger Brother, so Tiger Dad let Tiger Brother climb onto the back of the Black King Snake. The situation was urgent, and the Black King Snake didn't care about not wanting to be ridden by its younger brother Tiger, and swam quickly on the ground. Fortunately, the scales on the Black King Snake's skin are quite thick and dense, and those thin white silk threads cannot penetrate at all. Moreover, the skin of the Black King Snake is relatively slippery for the attack of that ghost thing, and there is no place for it to attach, and the thin white silk thread cannot be entangled. Law. Slippery. When the fisherman saw the situation of the Black King Snake, he had an idea and imposed a layer of discipline on himself. Then, a layer of light film attached to his body, preventing the silk threads from grabbing him. Even if you touch him, he will just slide away without any force. But Cang Nian doesn't need these means at all. Due to his extreme speed, those thin white threads could not touch him at all, and therefore could not pose any threat. However, seeing the fisherman's methods, Cang Nian hurriedly called out to him and looked at the tiger brother on the Black King Snake. There is no way. Facing the attack of these thin white silk threads, the Black King Snake can handle it with ease because of its appearance. But the attack on the Black King Snake was fruitless, and those thin white silk threads could only attack the tiger brothers on the Black King Snake's body. Originally, Tiger Dad wanted the Black King Snake to protect Tiger Brother, but it didn't work. Although the metaphor may be a bit inappropriate, the current relationship between Tiger Brother and Black King Snake is like a medic on the battlefield who retreats with a wounded soldier on his back, but the bullets are blocked by the wounded soldier and the medic survives. Law. Slippery. In the past few days, the fisherman has established a considerable degree of tacit understanding with Cang Nian's family. Hearing Cang Nian's cry and seeing the direction his gaze was pointing, he understood it instantly, and shouted out another command, covering Tiger Brother with a film of light. Snap! This command made Tiger Brother fall off the Black King Snake. There was no way. After applying the slippery material, the already low friction between Tiger Brother and the Black King Snake was suddenly reduced drastically, so that it could not stand on the Black King Snake. But fortunately, those thin white silk threads that had almost wrapped Brother Tiger like a dumpling had lost their support points and slid off Brother Tiger's body one by one. However, Cang Nian took a quick look during his busy schedule and found that the ends of the fallen threads were not stained blood red, but a layer of light yellow. Look at Brother Tiger again. Like a little slimmer? That ghost thing didn't suck blood, but sucked out the fat from Brother Tiger's body. Cang Nian wanted to laugh a little, but the current occasion was not appropriate, so he could only hold back his laughter and run while dodging those thin white silk threads. Law. Slippery. At this time, the fisherman saw that Tiger Mom was already exhausted from facing the attacks of those thin white silk threads, which were torn apart again and again. Therefore, without Cang Nian's command, he covered Tiger Mom with a layer of loss. Now, the thin white silk threads on Tiger Mom's body began to slide off in strands, just like Tiger Brothers just now. There's only one chance left. The fisherman muttered as he ran. He had just used the law to strengthen the dagger's cutting ability when he was dealing with the thin white silk thread attached to the skin. Then, there were 3 more commands, which exerted a slippery effect on himself, his tiger brother, and his tiger mother respectively. Now, there is only one layer of his law left. Fortunately, at this moment, Tiger Dad's powerful strength did not need help, Cang Nian's extreme speed would not be entangled by the thin white silk thread, and the little sable was also quite flexible, jumping quickly among the bushes and keeping up with the pace. Wow! At this moment, in front of Cang Nian and his group, a thick layer of pure white fog rose several meters high like a wave and rushed towards them. The width of this pure white giant is unknown and there is no way to bypass it. Seeing this, Cang Nian's heart tightened. With such a huge size, I can dodge it, but it will be difficult for Tiger Dad and the others to rush over. Ouch! But at this moment, Tiger Dad let out a terrifying roar. Then, a layer of pitch-black flame waves quickly attached to the 4 claws upwards, the black flames rose high, and the surrounding thin white silk threads were ignited like cotton wool. Law. Enhance. Seeing this, the fisherman made up his mind and shouted loudly. The next second, a stream of light flew out from him and landed on Tiger Dad. Immediately afterwards, the dark flames on Tiger Dad's body burned fiercely, 3 points higher. Chapter 110. Hey! The black flames rising from Tiger Dad's body spread like a virus. Those thin white threads that rushed towards Tiger Dad instantly ignited after touching him. However, after leaving Tiger Dad's body, this black flame seemed to have lost its high temperature and would not ignite anything else. But the thin white silk thread that had been entangled was constantly burning and spreading in all directions. This sudden change made those thin white threads seem to understand that they would be burned to ashes if they came into contact with Tiger Dad. Thus, the high wall in front of Tiger Dad, which was like a wave and composed of thin white silk threads, opened a gap in the middle. But the Tiger Dad was not satisfied with this. He used his huge body to move left and right, forcing the high wall made of thin white silk threads to make way for a larger passage. This is also quite effective. Under the pursuit of Tiger Dad, those thin white silk threads can only dodge quickly. Those who fail to dodge in time will turn into a large amount of ashes in just a few seconds. Oh! After doing all this, Tiger Dad quickly turned around and yelled at Cang Nian and his group, urging them to evacuate. Although its black flame ability is powerful, it cannot last for too long. Seeing this, Cang Nian and his group quickly sped up. Even Tiger Brother, who was usually the laziest, moved his chubby short legs quickly for fear of being left behind. If you don't work hard now, you will never have to work hard in the future. Snort sniff. Finally, driven by his survival instinct, Tiger Brother even surpassed the fisherman and achieved the second-to-last result. There is no way, the creatures present are all relatively agile. Even for Brother Tiger, after the spiritual energy revived the tide, his body became stronger and his maximum speed was amazing, which was not comparable to that of a human fisherman. As for Pippi, huskies are sled dogs, and running is their specialty, so they are naturally not slow. Finally, after a burst of mad running, Cang Nian and his group finally broke out of the encirclement of thin white silk threads with the help of Tiger Dad. Looking back, I saw that those thin white silk threads still wanted to chase, but after stretching a few meters towards me, they could only reluctantly retract. Seeing this, Cang Nian finally breathed a sigh of relief. It is a very good result that no member was left behind. Hey! Then, after making sure that the thin white silk threads would not catch up, the black flames on Tiger Dad's body subsided and returned to black, white and orange. However, the use of its supernatural powers just now has consumed a lot of its energy, and it is now gasping for breath. This thing is definitely not an animal, but if it is a plant, it is almost impossible for a single plant to cover such a large area. It is quite fast within its own territory, but it cannot be pursued outside of its territory. So its actual ability to act is actually very weak. What on earth is this thing? Now that the crisis was resolved, Cang Nian had the energy to think. Hey, this thing, looks like a mushroom. At this time, the fisherman who was still gasping for breath said. Mushroom. Cang Nian looked at the fisherman in confusion. I just grabbed a handful and put it in my pocket, Tiger Lord, have a look. Doesn't this thing look like a thin mushroom stem? But what I said is not quite accurate, I should say that this is a kind of mycelium. Seeing Cang Nian looking at him, the fisherman took out a handful of broken thin white silk thread from his trouser pocket, showed it and said. Seeing this, Cang Nian moved closer to take a closer look. It really does look like a mushroom, white and tender, but actually still has some toughness. So it is easy to tear off one or two, but it becomes a bit difficult if there are more. If it really is a fungus, then it will be troublesome. After a careful inspection, Cang Nian frowned. This is not good news. This means that it is difficult for our family to defeat the other side based on biological habits. If it is an animal, depriving it of food will starve it to death. If it is a plant, find a way to prevent it from receiving light, otherwise it may die. But if this thing is a fungus, then it will be difficult to deal with. Fungi do not need food or sunlight, just a little water and some minerals from the soil to grow. Although judging by the behavior of this thin white thread, it is definitely capable of eating meat. But eating meat should only speed up its growth. Even without meat, it can survive by relying on the water and minerals in the soil, which are the most abundant in the jungle. Even if it is impossible to maintain its current astonishing size, it can at least survive by reducing its size. The most difficult thing is that this thing is difficult to kill completely. As long as there is a little mycelium left, it can make a comeback. Unless, the environment of this area can be changed on a large scale, making it unsuitable for the survival of fungi. But this is completely impossible for Cang Nian's family. Their current abilities are far from being able to change the environment. Master Tiger. There is no way to remove such a large amount of mycelium. What should we do now? Seeing Cang Nian thinking, the fisherman said with a sad face. He thought about it for a long time, but could not find a way to get rid of the mycelium. Huge scale, extremely low external demand, terrifying vitality. Any of these are excellent conditions that are difficult to eliminate. When the three are put together, it's a sure kill. If it is a city, we can also find a way to develop the corresponding killing agent and spray it on a large scale. But now, let alone the city, there is no way for him to get out of this jungle alive. If this thing continues to grow like this, will it threaten Khan? At this time, the fisherman couldn't help but think. Although it sounds magical that a strain of mycelium could threaten human cities. But now the spiritual energy has revived. Any weird things could happen. Especially, this mycelium has such potential. You know, the area just now was at least 1 kilometer in radius. This is the distance we ran alone. Therefore, it is possible that the coverage area of this thing is already several kilometers. How long has it been since the spiritual energy revival tide began? Just 5 days. In just 5 days, this ghost thing grew to such a terrifying size. If we let it grow for a while, wouldn't it be able to cover an area of more than 10 kilometers in radius? Continue? Hundreds of kilometers is not impossible, right? Thinking of this, the fisherman couldn't help but shudder. If this ghost thing is allowed to grow up, it will definitely become a catastrophic level of horror. Ah! At this time, Cang Nian looked at the fisherman, and then looked at Tiger Dad and the others. Then he drew a circle on the ground with his claws, and then pointed with his claws to the place where they had just rushed out and was covered with mycelium. Master Tiger, you mean to first determine the size of that thing? The fisherman thought for 2 seconds, then asked speculatively. Hearing this, Cang Nian nodded. Regardless of whether you want to come up with a solution or not, you must first determine the extent of the mycelium. Chapter 111. It seems that this is the only thing we can do now. Regardless of whether you want to find a way to eliminate it later, or whether you cannot eliminate it and try to avoid it consciously, you need to first determine how much territory it occupies. But Lord Tiger, I have run out of orders now. Can you wait until I recover before starting again? Well, Pippi can also help. With its lightning superpower, it is not afraid of the mycelium. This way we can determine the range on the periphery. Seeing that he guessed correctly, the fisherman nodded in agreement, then smiled awkwardly. His command ability is all-purpose and powerful, the only problem is that its endurance is too poor. It can only be used 5 times in a short period of time, and he has already used up all of them in order to escape just now. Next, you need to rest for at least half a day before you can use it 5 times again. When Pippi heard the fisherman mention him, he stomped his feet excitedly, and electric arcs crackled on his body. It's like saying, Master is right. Pippi can do it. Ah! Cang Nian ignored the fisherman's request to take a rest. It's not that he is exploiting the fisherman, but that the fisherman is the only one in the entire team who has the ability to draw. In this case, the task of exploring the range of the mycelium cannot be carried out separately, and everyone must act together. Now, he had plenty of energy and didn't need the fisherman to test the range. Then, Cang Nian slowly walked to the wave of mycelium that had just rushed out. In just a moment, they were like chameleons, completely hidden in the jungle. If an unaware animal came over, it would probably walk into the depths of the mycelium without realizing it, just like his family had done before. And his family, both in terms of race and superpowers, are considered top-notch among all the evolved creatures, which is why they were able to escape. If it were any other animal, once it got into such a deep position, it would have no ability to climb out, and when it was attacked, it would be too late to escape. Eventually, those animals will fall under the entanglement of dense mycelium, with the mycelium piercing their bodies and sucking everything out, becoming nutrients for the mycelium to expand its own size. For the mycelium to grow to such a size, the number of animals it has eaten must be extremely staggering. Suppressing these thoughts, Cang Nian ran towards the mycelium. Snort sniff. As soon as he stepped into the territory of mycelium, those mycelium that had just hidden themselves began to stab and entangle Cang Nian frantically. But Cang Nian was extremely fast, and the hyphae reacted too slowly, unable to keep up with his speed, and could only be left behind. It's like Cang Nian is a player with only single-digit delay and smooth operation, while the hyphae behind him is like a high-pin warrior with a delay of thousands of pins, and is several beats slower than Cang Nian in everything he does. Then, Cang Nian explored in the direction perpendicular to the boundary of the mycelium. If attacked by mycelium, Cang Nian would move 2 steps outside. If he had not been attacked by the mycelium, Cang Nian would have taken 2 steps inside. In this way, in and out, mycelium, a creature that has no thoughts and acts only on instinct, perfectly cooperates with Cang Nian's tests and exposes its own limits. At this time, the fisherman finally understood that Cang Nian's intention was not to let him go even if he had no special abilities to use. But there is no need for him to test the range of the mycelium. Seeing Cang Nian exploring the range, the tiger father, who had recovered by now, walked forward, raised his claws towards the edge of the mycelium territory, and left clear scratches on the trunks of each tree with his claws. Tiger Dad knew that his memory was not good enough and he would not be able to remember things very accurately, so he used this simple and easy-to-use method to define the scope that Cang Nian had explored. Then, the Tiger Dad would raise his tail, stick out his butt, and spray urine on the tree trunk from time to time. This is equivalent to marking the territory, which contains the unique scent of the powerful tiger, and can be retained for a long time as long as it does not rain. If this is done, passing animals will actively avoid it if they smell the scent to avoid encountering predators like Tiger Dad who are at the top of the food chain. Tiger Dad is getting smarter. Seeing Tiger Dad's actions, Cang Nian sighed while testing the range of the mycelium. Leaving marks on the tree trunk with his claws was not an action that surprised him too much. But the fact that the urine leaves a smell shows that Tiger Dad has realized that he cannot allow the mycelium to eat more animals. Otherwise, the range of the mycelium will definitely expand again, which may threaten his family. However, Cang Nian was overthinking this. Tiger Dad did understand that this mycelium would eat animals. But the purpose of marking with urine is not to prevent the hyphae from expanding further. But it is to reduce the possibility of other animals being eaten. In the eyes of Tiger Dad, all animals in this territory, no matter big or small, should be food for his family. The mycelium ate the food that should have belonged to its own family, and ate so much. It's so abominable. However, the Tiger Dad knew that the big guy who stole his prey was very powerful and he could not defeat him for the time being. Therefore, it did not impulsively seek out the mycelium to fight with it, but rationally protected its prey. The less the mycelium eats, the more prey will be left for its family. This is the simple idea of Tiger Dad. Master Tiger. I'm here to help too. When the fisherman saw Tiger Dad marking the range of the mycelium, he was stunned for a moment and then hurried over. Tiger Dad thought of marking the range, but he, a human being who is a wise race, did not think of it, which made the fisherman quite ashamed. So he also drew out his dagger and scratched at the tree trunks and bushes. Tiger Dad's claws are too big and can only leave marks on thick trees, so the indicated range is not accurate. Fishermen can leave scratch marks on smaller tree trunks, which is more accurate. Woof! Seeing this, Pippi followed excitedly. While the fisherman paddled on the upper side, Pippi scratched on the lower side with his claws. Together they marked the range of the mycelium. As for the black king snake, it had already followed Cang Nian silently, using its heavy body to press out an obvious snake path as a mark. Because of its amazing defense and very dense scales, the hyphae cannot penetrate it, and its body is not easy to entangle it. The hyphae can attack the black king snake but cannot stop it. Seeing this, the tiger mother also rubbed her little tiger twice, urging him to work too. The other animals are already working hard, how can the big cub be lazy? Oh! Brother Hu twisted his butt and walked over very reluctantly. It was still mourning the fat it had lost when it had just escaped. That's the material used to store its supernatural energy. Chapter 112. Ding! Pull out the ground once, pull out the ground skill proficiency +1. 10,000/10,000, ding! Congratulations to the host. The proficiency of the pulling out the ground skill has reached the maximum value, and this skill has evolved into light body. Hey! The ground pulling skill has evolved. Just when the exploration of the mycelium range was about to end, a system prompt sounded in Cang Nian's mind. Then, he felt that his hind limbs had become noticeably thicker and stronger, and much stronger. This is the evolution of a third level skill to a fourth level one, and the effect is quite significant. This is quite normal. My proficiency in the earth pulling skill is already over 8,000 levels. I was testing the range of the mycelium and constantly dodging the opponent's attacks. It is jumping almost every moment, and it will soon be able to reach the level of less than 2,000 floors. Feeling the changes in his body, Cang Nian nodded secretly. Then, he jumped upwards with all his strength. Whoosh! Ding! Light body once, light body skill proficiency +1. 1/10,000, in the blink of an eye, Cang Nian jumped more than 3 meters high out of thin air. You know, Cang Nian now weighs only 40 or 50 kilograms, equivalent to a medium to large dog. The bone and muscle density of tigers is greater than that of canines, and their limbs tend to be sturdy, like a high-powered coupe with a low chassis. Therefore, the shoulder height of Pippi, a husky of the same weight, is already 50 to 60 centimeters, while that of Cang Nian is only 45 centimeters. This is equivalent to jumping over 6 times the height of one's own shoulders. Even if the height is taken into account, it is more than twice as tall as Cang Nian. There is no doubt that this jumping ability is quite powerful for a little tiger like Cang Nian. The evolution of my jumping ability has strengthened my hind limbs, so my speed should also be improved, right? And for skills like jumping that increase proficiency by the number of times and there is no shortcut, it is great that there is no need to increase the number of times to increase proficiency in the next stage. Otherwise, if the frequency is increased 10 or 100 times, how long will it take for me to evolve these skills to the 5th level? Cang Nian was quite happy, and then he couldn't help but open the attribute panel of Numerical Engineer. Strength, 20 speed, 60 defense, 20 stamina, 30 spirit, 20 maximum free attribute points, 10% it has indeed improved. And the speed attribute has been increased by 5 points at once. Seeing this, Cang Nian felt a sense of satisfaction as if he had finally reaped the rewards after working so hard for a long time. During this period, his size grew rapidly. It grew from more than 20 kilograms to 40 or 50 kilograms, and my strength also increased exponentially. However, as his speed had almost reached the limit of land creatures, it was extremely difficult for him to continue increasing his speed. Even if the speed attribute points can be moved to physical strength to break the limitation, it is not very ideal. The speed column has only increased by 5 attribute points in such a long time. But now, the skill of pulling out the ground has evolved into light body, instantly increasing 5 attribute points. It's not as simple as 5 equals 5. You should know that the human 100-meter sprint record is that if you can run under 14 seconds, you are a third-level athlete, if you can run under 11.7 seconds, you are a master athlete, and if you can run under 11.38 seconds, you are an international athlete. But the world record is 9.58 seconds. After approaching the limit of the race, every little progress becomes extremely difficult. Cang Nian can say without exaggeration that if he did not have the system, the improvement of the latter 5 speed attributes might require 10 or 100 times the effort of obtaining the first 5 speed attributes. In fact, there is a high possibility that no matter how hard you try, you will not be able to improve the speed of these 5 attribute points. Hey? We're already here. At this time, Cang Nian discovered that his family was in front of him, the place where they had escaped from the mycelium coverage before. This is also the starting point for me to test the size of the mycelium range. Now, the range of the mycelium has been delineated. This is too outrageous. According to the area that has been delineated, this mycelium has occupied an area of nearly 2.5 kilometers in radius. At this time, the fisherman also found that the range of his exploration of the mycelium had ended, and the result shocked him. This may not seem like much. But in fact, this is equivalent to 20 square kilometers, more than 30,000 acres of land. Such a result made Cang Nian silent, and the joy of skill evolution was diluted. This is a pretty heavy question. How to solve this problem? If the problem is not resolved, it will continue to eat animals and then quickly expand to a wider area. After several days of patrolling the territory, the current size of this circle is less than 10 kilometers away from the evolving pine tree and the waterfall. He didn't know how long it would take for this thing to grow large enough to include the evolved pine tree in its territory. But if we don't stop it, there will always be a day like this. This made Cang Nian think of migrating again. There's no way, this thing is too powerful. It is an individual, but it is also a biological aggregate composed of billions of hyphae. In the absence of absolute power, huge numbers are the source of people's sense of powerlessness. Seeing that Cang Nian hadn't roared for a long time, the tiger parents knew that this was a problem that could not be solved, and they felt heavier in their hearts. In this situation, even Tiger Brother noticed the depressing atmosphere. His ears drooped and he swept the ground anxiously with his tail. It's getting late, why don't you go back first? It may have eaten some animals during this period, and its range may have expanded. It is not safe here. It will take a long time for it to expand to the big tree, so we still have time to think about how to deal with it. Seeing that the atmosphere had become dead silent, the fisherman looked at the dim light spots leaking through the branches and leaves and broke the silence. Hearing this, Cang Nian nodded solemnly. Really? There's no point thinking too much now. Although the situation is bad, it is not extremely urgent. Besides, at worst you can just run away, there's no need to be so afraid. Soon, after unanimously deciding to go home for dinner first, Cang Nian and his party returned to the evolution pine tree. If I really can't stay here, I hope the pine cones of this evolved pine tree can mature before then. Cang Nian looked up at the evolving pine tree and murmured in his heart. If there is anything that Cang Nian is concerned about in this territory besides the excellent training environment and abundant food resources, it must be the pine cones of the evolved pine trees. However, Cang Nian would ask Little Sable every day whether this thing was mature, and Little Sable would say no. After a slight sigh, Cang Nian asked the Little Sable to take out the meat from the storage space. Although the elk we had before was very strong, all we have left is enough for today's meal. Pippi. You are awesome. Daddy has been training you for so long, and you finally caught a hare. We're having roast hare tonight. Cang Nian's family was preparing to eat, and the fisherman was also preparing to eat. After skinning and cleaning the hare and threading it onto smooth branches, the fisherman piled up the dead branches he had found. Squeak. Then he took out his flashy pulley lighter and lit the dead branches. At this moment, looking at the gradually burning flames, Cang Nian's eyes were shocked. There was only one sentence left in his mind. Set fire to the mountain. You will spend the rest of your life in jail. Chapter 113. Ah! After eating 2 bites of meat, Cang Nian stopped, and impatiently flashed in front of the fisherman, letting out a roar. Master Tiger, do you want to eat rabbit? Seeing this, the fisherman was shocked and asked suspiciously. But in the face of the fisherman's irrelevant questions, Cang Nian just shook his head, then raised his paw and pointed at the fire that the fisherman had just lit. Then he pointed to the other side of the river, the direction occupied by mycelium. This. Master Tiger, are you trying to say that we should use fire to deal with that pile of mycelium? Cang Nian's body movements expressed his meaning clearly, and the fisherman immediately understood, his eyes shining. Why didn't he think of this solution? The area covered by those hyphae is large enough, but they themselves are not very powerful. Even without the law enchantment, my dagger can still cut off a lot. However, when their number increases, it becomes difficult to cut them off. But in essence, those hyphae are still ordinary fungi, and their requirements for the environment are quite high. This thing seems to be able to grow anywhere, but it must have a certain humidity, a certain temperature, a dark space, and humus covering the jungle floor in order to survive. As long as one of these environmental factors is broken, that area will become unsuitable for the survival of mycelium. As for humidity, the location of the mycelium is close to the river, so it is difficult to change it drastically on its own. If it is a dark space, it will be even more difficult. After all, before the spiritual energy revived, those tall trees covered the entire jungle. Now that the spiritual energy has revived, the trees have become taller and more luxuriant, and walking in the jungle during the day feels eerie. So, if you want to change the dark space, you have to remove all the trees. This is simply impossible. Even if the trees are removed, there are still grasses and shrubs, and these corners and crevices can still keep the mycelium alive. But the temperature is much easier to change. One fire can set the entire forest on fire. By then, the forest will turn into a sea of fire, and the temperature will be maintained at least 700 to 800 degrees. At this temperature, almost no living thing can survive except tardigrades. Fungi are temperature-sensitive organisms. Under high temperatures, even if the mycelium hides underground, it cannot escape the long-term high temperature and will be burned to ashes directly. A big fire can also significantly reduce the air humidity in that area. Even if the high temperature of the flames fails to kill them completely, for a period of time afterwards, the fire will not allow the hyphae, which require a certain humidity to survive. In addition, although some fungi are anaerobic organisms, the vast majority of mushrooms that can grow very large are aerobic organisms. The fire will consume all the oxygen in the air, and most living things will not be able to survive. With these multiple effects, if a fire could really be ignited, the mycelium covering an area of 2.5 kilometers would be doomed. But, Lord Tiger, we can't control the fire. If you are not careful, you might burn down the entire forest. Maybe it will spread here too. But at this time, the fisherman said with some worry. As a law-abiding citizen, I am still a little afraid of this kind of behavior that may lead to life in prison. In particular, in the current environment of revival of spiritual energy, the plants in the northeast snow ridge area have become unusually tall and their density has also increased a lot. Once a wildfire is ignited, it may be impossible to stop burning. What if the fire spreads to Khan? Of course, more importantly, what if they set a fire and we don't have time to escape? This is indeed an issue that requires careful consideration. After hearing the fisherman's concerns, Cang Nian came back to his senses from his excitement. Setting fire is easy. With my speed, it is very easy to rush into the mycelium territory, light a fire at the deepest part, and then run out. But if the fire cannot be controlled, it may cause a wildfire that cannot be extinguished, and then we will be doomed. Not only would this new territory with an excellent environment be destroyed, but if the fire got more intense and a gust of wind blew, his family might not be able to escape. There is a way to build fire breaks, fight fire with fire, and prevent the fire from spreading. However, the conditions for its actual implementation are very harsh and require huge human and material resources to achieve. With our family's strength, this is almost impossible to accomplish. Cang Nian thought with a headache. That's right. Master Tiger. After we ignite the fire over there on the mycelium, we can ignite a circle of fire lines around it. This will prevent the fire from getting out of control. No. If that's the case, there's nothing we can do. Even if we return to Khan, we won't be able to transport enough firefighters here to control this fire. At this time, the fisherman said belatedly. But halfway through, he also felt that this plan would be difficult to implement. Even if we consider returning to Khan and relying on collective strength, we have to send people over first, right? This place is at least 100 or 200 kilometers away from Khan. If it were before the revival of spiritual energy, it would not be a difficult thing to achieve. But now, after the revival of spiritual energy, the dangers in the jungle are countless. The fisherman believes that he is quite strong, but he is not sure if he can get out, let alone find a group of professionals to come in. Kongcheng is not a strategic big city, but just an ordinary small town with a population of several million in the snow-capped mountains of northeast Daxia. Otherwise, there should be military helicopters that can deliver people in by making a few more trips. Hey! Just when Cang Nian and Diao Lao were silent because the idea they had just come up with was not feasible, suddenly a strong wind blew. Then, the bonfire that the fisherman had just lit was blown down, and a burning branch rolled several meters away. And just like that, the bushes there were set on fire. In just a few seconds, a raging fire several meters high rose up. Damn it, it's on fire. It's on fire. This scared the fisherman, and he quickly stood up and looked for water to put out the fire. Ah! Seeing this, Cang Nian cursed the fisherman in his heart and quickly called out to the little sable. The storage space of the little sable can hold 8 tons of water. The fire has just started, so it is not difficult to put it out. Hearing Cang Nian's order, the little sable hurried towards the river. Oh! But at this moment, Cang Nian saw the sturdy body of the black king snake swimming towards the place where the fire had just started. Hey! Then the black king snake stood up, raised its head, and opened its bloody mouth. Then, Cang Nian saw a scene that stunned him. The raging fire turned into a thin line and rushed towards the mouth of the black king snake. Chapter 114. Damn it! Lord Snake swallowed the fire? Am I dreaming? The fisherman, who was just about to find something to fetch water to put out the fire, was completely stunned when he saw this scene. His mouth was wide open, as if he was competing with the black king snake to see whose mouth could open bigger. However, it was obvious that he was completely defeated. Black king snake can devour fire. And Cang Nian was also stunned by this scene. He always thought that the black king snake's ability was just to devour and grow. But devouring flames is also devouring, there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with it. That's right, we can't tell what the Black King Snake is trying to say from its hissing sound. So communication can only be guessed through body language. After the aura resurrection tide, I didn't even ask what its power was. Instead, we make vague judgments based solely on external appearances. This is like Tiger Brother's ability. If it doesn't show any other functions, I can only judge that it is a simple defensive ability. How could I have imagined that it was not just a defense, but a release of stored energy? Then, Cang Nian thought about it and felt relieved. The Black King Snake had some trouble communicating with himself because of the language barrier. Therefore, I haven't figured out what its specific abilities are. While Cang Nian was thinking in amazement, the Black King Snake swallowed up the accidentally ignited fire in just a dozen seconds. Ah! Seeing this, Cang Nian came to the Black King Snake and asked with a howl. Where did the fires go? This is a question that Cang Nian is quite curious about. It's impossible that swallowing fire can make the Black King Snake grow bigger, right? The difference between Cang Nian and the Black King Snake is that Cang Nian can't understand what the Black King Snake is saying, but the Black King Snake can understand the meaning of Cang Nian's calls. Upon hearing this, the Black King Snake lowered its body and swam towards the river. Seeing this, Cang Nian hurriedly followed. After a while, the Black King Snake brought Cang Nian to the river. Then it straightened up, raised its head, and opened its bloody mouth. Hey! The next second, a long tongue of fire gushed out from the mouth of the Black King Snake, illuminating the surface of the river. However, the flames only lasted for a few seconds before they ended. Then, a black smoke ring slowly floated up from the mouth of the Black King Snake. So, the Black King Snake's ability is indeed to devour, but it can do more than just devour food to speed up its growth. Can you swallow some energy-type substances into your stomach and release them when needed? The demonstration of the Black King Snake was quite intuitive, and Cang Nian understood it immediately. Isn't this ability too powerful? The growth through devouring alone has allowed the Black King Snake to surpass the limits of species, and its physical strength alone is comparable to that of top predators. Cang Nian had no doubt that given the Black King Snake's current size, if it were to entangle Tiger Dad like a python hunting, Tiger Dad would have no more than a 50% chance of breaking free if he didn't use his Black Flame ability. And now, the Black King Snake can also absorb energy and store it, and release it when needed. Just spitting fire with one hand is already quite cool. I just don't know how powerful it is. This seems to be similar to Brother Tiger's energy storage and release. But Tiger Brother only needs to take a beating to store up energy. The Black King Snake must open its mouth to swallow, one is to store kinetic energy, the other is to store chemical energy. No, maybe Brother Tiger's ability can also store the power of fire? Cang Nian's thoughts began to wander. His eyes couldn't help but glance towards Brother Hu. Oh? Tiger Brother, who had just eaten, raised his head and looked at Cang Nian in confusion. It felt that its brother seemed to have some bad intentions towards it. Is my brother going to beat me again? Thinking of this, the little tiger stuck its butt out and crawled between the tiger father and tiger mother, shrinking its head, as if this could give it more sense of security. Oh! The tiger dad and tiger mom were licking each other's fur, and were quite unhappy to be interrupted by the tiger brother. He raised his paw and was about to push the little fat boy away. However, as soon as it raised its paw, it was met with the gloomy eyes of the tiger mother. Seeing this, the tiger father could only put down his paw guiltily and let his tiger brother, the light bulb, squeeze between him and his wife. Why? It is the little cub that makes the tiger less worried. Tiger dad thought worriedly. Ah! The tiger father, tiger mother, and tiger brother are a loving family, while Cang Nian comes to the fisherman with a Black King Snake. The accidental fire just now made the fisherman feel a little scared, and he quickly gathered the fire closer to prevent it from being blown away again. Hearing Cang Nian's cry, the fisherman looked over. Then, Cang Nian pointed at the fisherman's fire and then at the mouth of the Black King Snake. Wait! Mr. Tiger, are you trying to say that Mr. Snake's superpowers can be used to build fire breaks? Yes. Why didn't I think of that? With the fire-swallowing skill of Lord Snake, we can set a section of the jungle on fire, and the flames will spread to both sides. Go towards the mycelium over there, and let the snake swallow us over here. This way the fire can be contained within the circle. Lord Tiger, you are truly a genius. Seeing Cang Nian's actions, the fisherman was immediately shocked. Hearing this, Cang Nian nodded reservedly, but his eyes were full of excitement. With the Black King Snake's ability to devour flames, the last piece of the puzzle for the plan to attack the mycelium with fire has been completed. But, Master Snake, how many times can you use this method of swallowing fire in a short period of time? How much do you have to swallow before you can't swallow anymore? But the fisherman was not as optimistic as Cang Nian. Instead, he thought of an important issue. His law is a powerful but restrictive supernatural power. He can only use it 5 times in a short period of time, which makes his ability to continue fighting very poor. Otherwise, he would not have stayed with Cang Nian's family, preparing to train his supernatural powers to become stronger, at least to use them more times, before planning to return to Khan. So, he is very sensitive about this aspect. That's right. If it's used too infrequently, it will be difficult to build a fire break. The fisherman is more concerned about this kind of problem, and he won't ignore it like I almost did. Hearing this, Cang Nian nodded in agreement. Then he turned his gaze towards the Black King Snake. He knew that the Black King Snake must have understood the fisherman's doubts. Seeing this, the Black King Snake first shook its head, then raised its head and opened its mouth. Hey! The next second, the fisherman's fire turned into a line of fire, and flames poured into the Black King Snake's mouth. Hey! But just after swallowing it, the Black King Snake spit out the flames again, and the fire was reignited. Hey! Then, the Black King Snake swallowed up the flames again. Hey! Then, the Black King Snake spit out flames again. In this way, the Black King Snake hesitated more than 30 times and could still continue. Stop, stop, stop. I understand. Master Snake, your ability to swallow and spit fire can be repeated over and over again as long as you don't swallow too much at once and store it for too long, right? Seeing this, the fisherman asked hurriedly. Only then did he remember that wild animals have never learned to count, so how could they possibly express such an artificially defined concept as how many times they can be used? Hearing this, the Black King Snake nodded slightly and stopped breathing out flames. Chapter 115. 41st Day of Birth. Ah! Cang Nian shouted with high morale, like a slogan for a battle. Now, he no longer has the solemnity and dejection he had when he came back yesterday. Because now we have a feasible solution to deal with mycelium. That is to use the Black King Snake's ability to breathe fire to ignite the area outside the coverage of the mycelium. Then, before the fire becomes out of control, let the Black King Snake swallow the flames spreading outwards. Then, the Black King Snake spits out flames along the edge of the circle that is ready to be ignited, and ignites the next one. Then repeat this step, allowing the fire to spread inwards, while the outside is isolated by a fire break that uses fire to fight fire. The fire is confined to the location of the mycelium until everything in the range is burned to ashes. However, although the plan is mature, considering the huge workload of King Snake, just in case, Cang Nian still felt that they had to first plan a fire break that would make it less likely for the fire to get out of control. Although after the revival of spiritual energy, the plants in the jungle have become more dense. However, there are still some areas where the vegetation density is much lower than other places due to altitude differences or other environmental factors. These areas are ideal fire breaks. After all, they are all tall trees. If they really burn, even if the Black King Snake's method of breathing fire is not as restrictive as the fisherman's law. But if the workload is too heavy, even if the Black King Snake is exhausted to death, it will not be able to complete the task. Therefore, it is necessary to find a fire break where the fire is relatively easy to control. Otherwise, if the fire break is halfway built and the Black King Snake runs out of energy and can't bear it, it will be like setting the mountain on fire and he will end up in jail for life. However, before determining the fire break, Cang Nian still brought Tiger Dad and the others to the area of mycelium marked yesterday. Snort sniff. But before he reached the circle mark, strands of hyphae shot towards him. Fortunately, he had anticipated it and was not careless, so he easily avoided it. FK. We haven't even reached the location we marked yesterday, and this damn thing has already come out. It looks like it has expanded so much in just one night. Seeing this, the fisherman not far behind Cang Nian said in astonishment. This expanded at least 100 meters from the range they marked yesterday. In such a short period of time, the mycelium has expanded to such a large area. The growth rate of this thing makes the fisherman terrified. It cannot be delayed any longer. This is the result of the tiger father marking with urine and driving away the surrounding animals with tiger roars. Without our actions yesterday, it would have expanded at least twice as fast. We can't wait any longer, we have to implement the plan tonight. Seeing this, Cang Nian was also shocked. Then we need to build a larger windbreak area. At least we have to consider that it cannot expand to the windbreak before the plan is implemented. Otherwise, no matter how much you do, it will be in vain. Then the fisherman said seriously. Hearing this, Cang Nian nodded in agreement. If the range is not large enough, the mycelium may escape. With so many members on our side, it is impossible to defend such a large area. Therefore, the range must be expanded to prevent the mycelium from escaping. They only have one chance. If they fail, either the entire jungle will be burnt down, or the mycelium will escape and come back again in the future. Realizing the urgency of time, Cang Nian immediately began to distribute tasks. Tiger Dad and Tiger Mom take their tiger brother to hunt. The elk that Tiger Dad had hunted was eaten up last night. Next, it will be an ultimate test of the Black King Snake's physical strength and endurance. Therefore, everything is centered around the Black King Snake, allowing it to have no worries and perform perfectly. First up, the food. The Black King Snake needs to be fed completely and the food needs to be digested in advance so that when the plan actually begins, there will be no undigested food in its stomach, and its body will not be bloated and difficult to move. Next, water. Yesterday, after the Black King Snake demonstrated to the fisherman that it could breathe out fire many times, it immediately went to take a bath in the river. Obviously, swallowing flames does not mean it has no burden at all. The flames raise the Black King Snake's body temperature. If it happens too often, it will definitely overheat and affect its normal life activities. Therefore, water is essential. If it were any other team, they would probably be scratching their heads. After all, the plan cannot be stopped once it has begun. Apart from humans, almost no living creature can carry large amounts of water. However, fortunately, I have little Sable, a person with spatial ability, on my side. The storage space perfectly solves the problem of keeping water around the Black King Snake at all times. 8 tons of water will last for a long time. If that is not enough, Cang Nian can carry the little Sable and quickly go to the river to fetch water. His current maximum speed for long-distance running is about 50 km per hour. The location of the mycelium is not far from the river bank. Therefore, the farthest point from the river bank in the entire plan would not be more than 10 km, and the round trip would take less than half an hour. Cang Nian's own task is to plan fire breaks in areas with sparse vegetation and mark them. Next, when the mission begins, the Black King Snake can lay the fire break directly according to the marks left by Cang Nian without having to think. After the tasks were distributed, no member had any objections and they all immediately went to carry out their tasks. Time passed quickly and soon it was night. It is now midsummer and the daytime temperatures are too high. If a fire breaks out, the King Snake may not be able to control it in time. Therefore, it will not be so difficult to control the fire when the night gets cooler and then take action again. Seeing that the time was almost right, Cang Nian looked at the Black King Snake and gave orders. The action begins. Upon hearing Cang Nian's order, the Black King Snake devoured the fire that the fisherman had prepared in a safe location. Then, it swam to the starting point of the fire break planned by Cang Nian, and a raging flame erupted out. The flames fell on the bushes, quickly igniting them and sending up billowing white smoke. Living shrubs naturally contain a lot of water, so they are difficult to ignite. However, under the fierce firepower of the Black King Snake, a blazing flame was finally ignited. Once the flames started, they burned very quickly. In less than half a minute, a line of fire appeared and spread to both sides. Upon seeing this, the Black King Snake opened its mouth wide, and the flames spreading toward the outside quickly turned into a line of fire and poured into the Black King Snake's mouth. Hey! Immediately afterwards, the Black King Snake swam a few meters and immediately spewed out flames, landing on the next section of the fire break. Seeing that this method was indeed effective, Cang Nian felt a lot more relieved. At the same time, the fisherman was taking pipi and lighting fires indiscriminately along the river bank. With the river blocking the way, the fire will definitely not spread further. And this is the best direction for the mycelium to escape. We must cut off its retreat. Chapter 116. Hey! Crackling, crackling. Flame is difficult to ignite, but once it reaches a certain scale, it spreads very quickly. Even after the spiritual energy revival tide, various plants in the jungle have grown to a certain extent, and many have evolved to a high level and possess various supernatural powers. But faced with large-scale wildfires, they are unstoppable. Although, Cang Nian saw many trees that could spray liquid on their own, trying to put out the fire and save themselves. But obviously, in the early stages of their evolution, they are unable to resist such man-made wildfire disasters. However, some small herbs were able to pull out their roots intact and run out when the fire burned near them, which really broadened Cang Nian's horizons. Although some of the evolved plants we encountered before could move, such as entwining themselves with vines or shooting out spikes to attack, I have never seen any of them be able to run away. However, large trees, probably due to their size, simply cannot do this. Perhaps when they have evolved to a higher level, they will have enough power to do this. But now, apart from spraying sap to try to save themselves, they can only wait to die. In this regard, Cang Nian could only say sorry to them in his heart. But it would be impossible for him not to start the fire. If you don't use fire to completely kill the mycelium, it will be your own family and more animals that will die. When these evolved plants see the mycelium devouring animals, they just turn a blind eye to the matter because the mycelium will not eat them. So they can't blame themselves for being forced into a corner and setting fire to the mountain. Hey! Hey! At this time, the black king snake was trying hard to swallow the flames on the outer side of the fire break, and then spit them out to the inner edge that was spreading toward the mycelium. Sizzle! The little sable would open the storage space from time to time and pour the cool river water that had been prepared on the black king snake to lower its body temperature. The black king snake swallows the flames and stores them, but when it spits them out it is not without any loss. And this loss was naturally borne by its body. Although after the revival of spiritual energy, its body's endurance has become stronger and it can adapt to higher body temperatures. But the continuous inhalation and exhalation of flames caused the black king snake's body temperature to continue to rise. Only by constantly cooling it with water can it prevent its body temperature from overheating. The entire fire break is nearly 20 kilometers long, 8 kilometers of which are along the river, so fishermen can complete it. But the remaining 12 kilometers are all the black king snake's mission. Now, an hour has passed and the black king snake has only completed a length of 3 kilometers without stopping. But the fire that was ignited at the beginning has already spread in the direction of the mycelium. Sizzle! The flame burned the thin white mycelium, making a sizzling sound. The number of mycelium is extremely huge, but facing the flames, they have no ability to resist. After all, they are just hyphae. They cannot grow if the temperature is too low, and they cannot survive if the temperature is too high. They have a lot of water in their bodies, but even sturdy trees, which store more water in their bodies, are unable to put out the fire and can only cause billowing white smoke from the flames. As long as they are licked by the flames for a few seconds, their thin white threads will be burned into grey ashes. Their IQ cannot be compared with that of other evolved creatures because their original biological structure is too simple and cannot yet support the development of an IQ close to that of humans. Therefore, they only have instincts. The instinct of survival. Driven by the instinct for survival, some of them drill deep into the ground, trying to bury themselves deep underground so that they will not be afraid of the burning flames. But unfortunately, even if they drill many meters underground, the scorching hot ground will conduct the heat downwards. Moreover, the flames rising into the sky will clear out most of the oxygen near the ground, and the flames will only go out when the oxygen in the air is insufficient to support the burning of the flames. But before that, all living things in the area had already suffocated to death, including the mycelium that covered an area of 2.5 kilometers. Of course, the power of wildfires is more than that. The carbon monoxide produced by incomplete combustion is highly toxic. Even if you are not directly covered by the flames will ignite the hot and humid vegetation and produce steam, which is more destructive than pouring boiling water directly. If a person is scalded by such steam, it only takes a few seconds to cause serious burns. For mycelium that is thinner than enoki mushrooms, this moment is enough to steam them. After the mycelium in the middle received the message from the mycelium at the edge of the range, it also tried to save itself. Their first reaction was to move towards the river. This is the best choice when facing a fire. Although being directly soaked in river water is a relatively extreme environment for them, it is better than being engulfed by flames. All of a sudden, dense mycelium emerged from the ground and fell off the bark of the trees. They turned into a pure white wave, rushing through the jungle like soldiers following orders. However, they were not too fast. After all, they are just mycelium. Their attack speed is quite good, but that is when the mycelium base is underground. It is equivalent to a person with a broken leg attacking with both healthy hands. As long as it does not leave the limit range of its arm, the arm can exert its due speed. But asking a person with a broken leg to get up and run away quickly is a bit too much. They can only climb using their arms. The hyphae crawled on the ground like caterpillars, heading towards the river where they could escape the wildfire out of their simple survival instinct. A full hour later, they felt the same burning touch in front of them. There is also a fire coming from the front. This is naturally the masterpiece of the fishermen. Because there is a river over there, the fishermen don't have to worry about building a fire break. The river is a natural fire break. Therefore, the fisherman only needs to be responsible for igniting the fire, and the speed is much faster than that of the Black King snake. 2 hours have passed since the fire was lit, and the fisherman's 8-kilometer fire line mission has long been completed. Feeling the flames rushing towards it, the mycelium tried to find a direction without flames so that it could pass through it and head to the river to save some mycelium and have a chance to continue surviving. They are individuals, but they are also a huge creature that forms a cluster. Preserving a minority and allowing itself to survive is the instinct of its collective intelligence. However, after searching, the mycelium could not find any gap. The fisherman had already closed the fire line on this side, and there was nowhere to retreat to the river. Chapter 116. Hey, Master Tiger, it's over on my end. Can Master Snake hold on? The fire line on the river bank had already been ignited. The fisherman ran to Cang Nian without stopping and asked worriedly. Ah. Cang Nian nodded, then shook his head. It can hold up for now, but it's hard to say whether it can hold up in the future. In 3 hours, he had already taken the little sable to fetch water twice. The Black King snake would have collapsed long ago after being exposed to flames for such a long time without the river water to cool it down. But even though they kept pouring river water on it and letting it drink from time to time, the Black King snake's physical strength was approaching its limit. This long-term task is no less than the previous one when Tiger Dad and his friends were captured by poachers and he ran for 50 kilometers just to keep up with the poachers. For me at that time, these 50 kilometers were a journey to explore my own limits. And now, for the Black King snake, such a difficult task is also to explore its own limits. At this moment, there is still a 3-kilometer area where the fire break has not been completed, and the entire fire attack plan has not yet been closed. If the hyphae sense that there is only this area without fire, they will definitely rush out from this area. And given their size, their family would not have any means to intercept them. It was a pure white wave, just like the ocean. And if we let them escape, all our efforts will be wasted. They will move to another territory for expansion, and flee to a location far away from the river, making it even more difficult to launch such a fire attack again. Why? Seeing Cang Nian's actions, the fisherman knew that the situation was not optimistic. But he could only cheer for the Black King snake in his heart. At the same time, the little sable poured the river water evenly on the Black King snake. Squeak! At this moment, the little sable on the tree looked out at the area in the sea of fire that had not yet been ignited, and couldn't help but let out a terrified squeak. Hearing the unusual voice of the little sable, Cang Nian's heart trembled and he quickly looked at the little sable. Squeak! The little sable pointed its little claws to the depths of the mycelium. Seeing this, Cang Nian also jumped onto a tree branch and looked from afar. His insight, which had evolved to the 3rd level, gave him excellent vision. Through the gaps between the trees, which were not so crowded, he saw a faint white. You're here so soon. Seeing this, Cang Nian frowned. This is not good news. The Black King snake still has 3 kilometers to complete the closure of the entire fire break. This will take another hour. Now, the enemy has reached a position within his sight. If he does not do something, there is a high possibility that they will escape from the fire attack. Although the speed of the mycelium was very slow in his field of vision, Cang Nian didn't dare to gamble. Ah! The thoughts flashed through his mind. Cang Nian lowered his head, looked at the fisherman, and let out a roar. Then, without caring whether the fisherman understood or not, he broke a branch as thick as his arm with one claw, trimmed it slightly with his claw, held one end of the branch in his mouth, and put the other end into the flame. In just a few seconds, the other end of the branch was already on fire. Whoosh! Immediately, Cang Nian rushed into the fire break that had not yet been closed like a gust of wind. He wanted to light a line of fire in the fire break, in front of the mycelium, to stop them. As long as enough time is delayed, the Black King snake can successfully close the fire line, leaving the mycelium nowhere to escape. Hey! Lord Tiger! Wait for me! Looking at Cang Nian who had already rushed in, the fisherman shouted. But then he turned around and squatted down. Pippi! Wait for Daddy to come back here at Snake Master's place. Then he stood up again. Law! Speed! As he shouted, a ray of light enveloped him. Whoosh! The next second, he followed Cang Nian with a lighter in his hand at a speed that was inhumane, and rushed into the firebreak. Woof! Looking at the fisherman rushing in, Pippi really wanted to follow him in, but he could only stamp his feet in anxiety. The fisherman always praises it for being obedient, and it is very proud of this because other dog owners always say that their dogs are not well behaved. Therefore, the words of the fisherman will be strictly enforced. Watching the fisherman getting farther and farther away, Pippi could only pray for him in his heart, hoping that he would come back safely. Hey! Cang Nian's speed was terrifyingly fast. Now he was not doing it for exercise, but to save every second. He did not care too much about the consumption of physical strength. In just half a minute, he rushed to the front of the mycelium army. The white waves like the ocean are extremely impactful to any living creature. If he was really an ordinary little tiger, he would be trembling now. The feeling of oppression brought by body shape is far more intuitive than anything else. However, he did not remain stunned for too long, and directly poked the branch with a burning end in his mouth into a bush. Fortunately, the flame on the branch was not extinguished by the strong wind caused by his running. Soon, the bush was set on fire, with billowing white smoke. But this is far from enough. Even though these hyphae have no brains, they can bypass this little flame with just a little perception. So he held the branch in his mouth and continued to light bushes in a straight line. Shrubs are undoubtedly better things to light than tall trees. Soon, Cang Nian set fire to an area of hundreds of meters. At this time, the mycelium army had already arrived in front of the fire line. Feeling the scorching heat, the mycelium army moved to the sides without hesitation. A wave was split into two by the flames. Who, Lord Tiger? I'm here to help you. At this time, the fisherman had just caught up. Even if he used the law to speed up, he was still no match for Cang Nian in terms of speed. As he said that, he used a lighter to light a branch, and together with Cang Nian, he stopped the mycelium army. Whoosh whoosh! With the combined efforts of Cang Nian and Diao Lao, flames and thick smoke rose up. Then, they each expand. Then, they are attracted to each other. Then, they merge together and become one. Sparks connected the dots, connected the lines, and merged the lines into surfaces, and soon formed a certain scale. This made the mycelium army not know how to respond, and they could only follow their instinct and go in the direction where there was no high temperature of flames. But Cang Nian and Diao Lao, one tiger and one man, kept lighting fires in front of them. But the mycelium army is large enough, with a width of several hundred meters. Even with the combined efforts of the tiger and the man, they could only barely slow down their pace. Tap tap tap. But at this moment, Cang Nian heard footsteps that did not belong to him, nor to the fisherman. Turning around, he saw two tigers, one big and one small, appearing before him. They are tiger parents. Chapter 118. Cang Nian actually had some selfish motives in mind when he called the fisherman but didn't call the tiger dad and tiger mom. He knew that rushing into the firebreak and setting fire to stop the army of mycelium would be very dangerous. The danger does not come from the mycelium army, but from the flame itself. Due to the heat difference, the different air temperatures will cause the flames to attract each other. This is also the principle of fighting fire with fire. And now, if I ignite the fire in the firebreak, the flames ignited in the outer firebreak will accelerate and converge towards the flames here. If you are not careful, you may end up in a sea of fire. Cang Nian was confident in his speed, so he came. The fisherman is slower, but easier to catch fire than myself as a tiger. Equals, number. In addition, the fisherman can only be considered a friend with whom you are not that close, while the tiger parents are your own relatives. To put it bluntly, the fisherman didn't run away and was burned to death, so at most he would feel a little guilty. But if the tiger father and mother were burned to death, they would be extremely sad. But now, seeing that it is difficult for them and the fisherman to stop the army of mycelium, the tiger parents have come to help. Cang Nian knew that even if he yelled at them to leave quickly, they would not leave. I want the tiger parents to be alive. How can tiger parents not want to protect themselves? Without such meaningless dissuasion, Cang Nian could only light more bushes as quickly as possible to make the fire bigger. When the first branch was about to burn out, he immediately threw it away and replaced it with a new one. With the addition of Tiger Dad and Tiger Mom, the efficiency of building the fire line has increased a lot. The fires, attracted by each other, connected into lines, gathered into clusters, and finally gathered into a towering fire. Now, the mycelium army can only spend more time taking detours. Time passed minute by minute, and Cang Nian suddenly felt a heat behind him. Turning around, he saw that in order to form layers of obstacles for the mycelium army, he, the Tiger Dad, the Tiger Mom, and the fisherman had immediately retreated to the firebreak. At this time, only the last 300 meters of the entire firebreak were left. But now, the left side of the firebreak, the right side of the firebreak, plus the fire-blocking line built by himself, Tiger Dad, Tiger Mom, and fisherman, the three raging flames are attracting each other and converging instinctively. Ah! Seeing this, Cang Nian spat out the fire stick and yelled. Withdraw! If we don't retreat now, it will be too late. Hearing Cang Nian's voice, the tiger father and mother quickly dropped what they were holding in their mouths and ran towards the gap in the firebreak. The fisherman also reacted at this time. Law! Speed! Law! He shouted loudly, and imposed the three laws on himself, Tiger Dad, and Tiger Mom respectively. The tiger parents, who were already a little exhausted, suddenly increased their speed a lot. Snort sniff! Sandhu ran towards the rapidly closing gap, and finally rushed out when it was still dozens of meters wide. Hey, finally got out. Haha. Pippi, Dad is back alive. Running out of the flaming trap, the fisherman panted and said excitedly. So exciting. The feeling of surviving a disaster made his adrenaline rush. Woof. Pippi had already come forward, raised his front paws and put them on the fisherman, licking him continuously. Whoosh. At this moment, the flames from the three parties have successfully converged due to their respective attraction, illuminating the night sky with incomparable brightness. Hey! At this time, the Black King Snake has not forgotten its duties. That is to let the flame burn only inside the circle and not outside. The three flames converged together, and many of them burned toward the outside at the final gap. The Black King Snake swallowed them without stopping, then raised its head and spit them out, making the flames disappear. Finally, thanks to its efforts, this last hidden danger has been eliminated. Snap! But just as it completed its task, its raised head collapsed to the ground. Seeing this, Cang Nian hurried over and used his claws to test the breath of the Black King Snake. Hey! Fortunately, although I'm much weaker, I'm not gone yet. After testing its breath for several minutes and confirming that the Black King Snake had simply fainted from exhaustion and was not dead, Cang Nian finally felt relieved. The completion of the fire attack this time was entirely dependent on the Black King Snake's devouring ability. Otherwise, Cang Nian would either plan to leave this habitat or try not to build a firebreak and hope that the fire would go out on its own. But if that happens, the entire jungle might be burned down accidentally, which would bring a truly devastating blow to the place. Now, the animals within the range of the mycelium army have already been eaten by them. This time the only losses were some plants. If the fire cannot be controlled and spreads, it will not just be the plants. Many animals that are not fast enough will also be burned to death. Moreover, if a wildfire is really raging, you probably can't escape it by just running. This was just the fire attack plan that our family had specially planned, and we almost failed to escape. It is hard to imagine what would happen if the fire was allowed to develop on its own. If you are not careful, the whole jungle may be buried with it. This should solve the problem of mycelium, right? At this time, Cang Nian turned his head and looked at the flames that were converging towards the inner area of the mycelium under the attraction of flames. Sizzle! The mycelium that had escaped to this side had already bypassed the blocking line built by Cang Nian, Tiger Dad, Tiger Mom, and the fisherman. But after bypassing the blocking fire line, there was an endless surging wall of fire. In fact, after such a long time, the walls of fire from all directions have advanced to this place little by little, and are about to have the final big convergence of the last bit of green in this vast scorched earth. The mycelium army moved forward and hit the towering wall of fire. Behind the mycelium army, there is also a towering wall of fire. The walls of fire on both sides also pressed towards them, compressing their last bit of living space. Boom! Finally, they huddled together and rose high, like a giant mushroom stalk without a cap. The mushroom stalk is several dozen meters high and more than 10 meters thick, a real behemoth. But it was so powerless under the flames from all directions, igniting the last and most dazzling wave of flames for this feast of fire. The towering pure white mushroom stalks turned into scarlet towers, filled with the essence of organic matter, bringing the fire to an unprecedented peak. Wow wow wow! But then, in just a dozen seconds, the flames that had shot up into the sky came down, and the towering mushroom stalks died completely. Without the support of any living thing, and with all the organic matter inside them ignited, their last bit of strength was burned out. The mushroom stalk collapsed, like an ancient tower that had been eroded by time. It fell down with a loud bang, splashing ashes all over the sky, swallowing up countless animals and returning everything it had, including everything else, to the forest. Chapter 119. Ding! Participate in killing a super large prey, slaughter skill proficiency plus 2000. 10,000/10,000, ding! Congratulations to the host, the proficiency of the slaughter skill has reached the maximum value, and this skill has evolved into slaughter. Ding! Participate in killing a super large prey, slaughter skill proficiency plus 48,000. 48,000/100000. Just as Cang Nian was delighted that the mycelium army was burned to ashes, a system prompt sounded in his mind. Then, he felt that his whole body had been significantly improved. The muscles become more solid and powerful, the fur becomes tougher, the claws become longer and sharper, and the fangs become thicker and more penetrating. Even its body size had increased to a certain extent. It had eaten once before the battle and now it became hungry in an instant. Undoubtedly, this is a huge evolution. After all, it is a third-level skill evolved to the fourth level. You know, my strongest skill right now, sprinting, is only at level 5. What's more, the series of skills of Massacre is the only one that can be improved in all aspects during evolution. Feeling that he had instantly become much stronger, Cang Nian couldn't help but open the system panel to check his attributes. Strength, 30 speed, 65 defense, 30 stamina, 40 spirit, 30 maximum free attribute points, 10%. Seeing this, Cang Nian became even happier. With one evolution, except for the speed attribute, the other 4 attributes are all directly increased by 10 points. The improvement of these 10 attribute points is half of the original value for strength, defense, and mental power. However, the speed only increased by 5 points as it was getting closer to the limit. But even so, Cang Nian was very satisfied. I almost forgot that participating in killing prey can also gain a lot of slaughter skill proficiency. It turns out that if the proficiency gained at one time is too high, part of it will be consumed, the original skills will be filled up, and then all of it will be added to the progress bar of the next stage of skills. By this calculation, I gained 50,000 Massacre skill proficiency in one go. Not only did it complete the accumulation of the slaughtering skill, but it also almost completed half of the progress bar of the advanced slaughtering skill. This time, solving the mycelium problem gave me a big surprise. After a while, Cang Nian thought with great surprise. 50,000 proficiency points at a time, it's simply unimaginable. You know, when I participated in killing wild boars before, I only had 1,000 points of proficiency. However, there is indeed a big gap between the mycelium army and the wild boar. Moreover, if we really consider the size, this army of mycelium is more than 500 times the size of a wild boar. But the last time we dealt with the wild boar, I came up with the idea myself, and I implemented most of the plan myself. Therefore, 1,000 proficiency points will be gained. This time, the solution was thought up by Cang Nian himself, but in its implementation, most of the responsibility fell on the Black King Snake. My initial work is to divide the fire zone. The midterm task is to take the little sable to get water so that the Black King Snake can always maintain a normal body temperature range. In the later stage, when the Black King Snake saw that the army of Hyphae was about to rush out and had not yet completed the closing of the fire break, it had to try its best to stop the army of Hyphae and slow down their speed of rushing out. This part of the work was more critical. Even though he didn't get the MVP in the battle plan against the mycelium army, he still gained a full 50,000 skill proficiency points. You can imagine how amazing the mycelium army is in the system's judgment. However, if you think about it, you can understand it. This thing covers an area of 2.5 kilometers in radius, covering an area of nearly 20 square kilometers. Although they are mushrooms, their density is very low and there is only a thin layer in one area. But if they were all put together, even though a lot had been lost before, they could still be piled up into a mushroom stalk that was comparable to a tower dozens of meters high. Something this big, even if it is made only of mycelium, would weigh thousands of tons. When I think about it this way, the skill proficiency assigned to me by the system is not enough. Ah! You can't be too greedy when you're a tiger. I can evolve a skill directly, and the next stage is only about halfway through. It's already pretty good. Then, Cang Nian shook his head and thought optimistically. You know, this army of hyphae is essentially composed of just a few thin hyphae. When they are gathered together, they are indeed huge, but if they are taken individually, they may only weigh a few hundred grams. My previous weight was close to 50 kilograms. If that were the case, a single strand of mycelium would be far from enough to kill someone in order to improve my proficiency in the killing skill. It is because the system treats them as a whole that one can reap such great rewards. If you still feel unsatisfied, you are too greedy. After all, if the system uses a single mycelium to calculate, I won't get any proficiency at all, and then I'll have no place to cry. I'm so hungry. I have to find some meat to eat. After the excitement, adrenaline was no longer effective, and Cang Nian suddenly felt a gnawing hunger. There is no way, the magnitude of this evolution is too great and it consumes a huge amount of his energy. His weight is estimated to have reached 70 kilograms. This is the smallest weight difference between Cang Nian and Hu Dis since they were born, calculated in proportion. You know, before this, Tiger Brother's weight was basically maintained at about twice your own. Although all the energy in the food was used for growth, Cang Nian didn't know where the extra weight came from. Maybe, it incorporates spiritual energy. Cang Nian guessed and thought. Ah! Feeling extremely hungry, Cang Nian called out to the tiger father and mother to say hello. I'm going to find something to eat. Oh! Hearing this, Tiger Dad and Tiger Mom nodded tiredly. Their physical strength is not as abnormal as Cang Nian's. Their small bodies seem to have endless energy. They were exhausted from trying to stop the mycelium army in the Sea of Fire. As for why Cang Nian only had a full meal during the day and was hungry at night, they didn't care. It was a good thing that the cubs could eat. Hey? Has Tiger Lord grown a size bigger? Hearing Cang Nian's cry, the fisherman looked over subconsciously and vaguely perceived something. Is this the effect of Tiger Lord's superpowers? I just dealt with the mycelium and it has grown a lot bigger. Could it be that I can become stronger by killing? So even if Tiger Lord doesn't eat the fish himself, he will kill it. Looking at Cang Nian who was moving away quickly, the fisherman made suspicious guesses. Cang Nian's ability Numerical Master has no cool special effects and no specific performance, so it is difficult for the fisherman to see it. He had wondered before whether Cang Nian's special ability was speed. But when he thought about the fact that Cang Nian was able to run 50 kilometers to rescue Tiger Dad and the others before the spiritual energy revival tide, he ruled out this possibility. After all, superpowers are awakened only when the tide of spiritual energy revives. Cang Nian's previous performance should have been simply a result of his extraordinary talent. Chapter 120. Hey! I'm finally alive! Cang Nian rubbed his belly with his paws, collapsed on the ground, and exclaimed in his heart with satisfaction. It took him a long time to find food after leaving his tiger father and his friends. Perhaps the wildfire made all the animals aware of the danger, so they ran away far away. However, Cang Nian relied on his terrifying speed and excellent hunting skills to catch a roe deer weighing 70 or 80 kilograms. Because it was extremely hungry after the evolution, Cang Nian ate most of the silly roe deer in one meal, swallowing about 40 to 50 kilograms of pure meat. What made him quite satisfied was that after the slaughter skill evolved into the killing skill, his maximum speed was likely to exceed that of the cheetah before the spiritual energy was revived. Moreover, its claws are longer and sharper, and its fangs are thicker and more powerful, so it can hunt larger prey. This is very good news. My proficiency in the slaughtering skill will increase much faster in the future. Now, his hunting ability should be similar to that of the tiger mom before her spiritual energy recovery. He can easily hunt a single prey weighing less than 300 kilograms. After eating and drinking, Cang Nian returned to Tiger Dad and the others. When he came back, he also dragged a young red deer weighing about 150 kilograms. His current strength is already quite amazing. Even a sika deer that is twice his weight can be dragged for more than 10 kilometers without any difficulty. Tiger Dad and Tiger Mom should not be hungry yet, but the Black King Snake has consumed a lot of energy recently and has the ability to devour, so he should be very hungry when he wakes up. Tiger Dad and the others did not go home directly. Although the mycelium has been destroyed, the fire here has not yet been extinguished and there is a risk of spreading to other places. This is the territory of Cang Nian's family, They had no choice but to burn down such a large area, which already made the tiger parents very distressed. They cannot burn other places. So, they decided to stay here and wait until the fire died down. The Black King Snake hasn't woken up yet. If it wakes up, let it swallow the remaining fire and discharge it into the air to extinguish it. If it didn't wake up, the tiger parents would take the little sable to the river to fetch water and put out the remaining sparks bit by bit. They have seen the power of wildfires, so even if this method is stupid, hard, and tiring, they dare not be careless. Oh! Just when Cang Nian put down the cicada corpse, he keenly noticed a series of rustling sounds. Turning around, I saw the Black King Snake getting up unsteadily. Ah! Seeing this, Cang Nian immediately ran to it and asked with concern. Are you hurt? Is it uncomfortable? Is it a big problem? This is the great contributor to this fire attack plan, and most of the tasks were completed by the Black King Snake. And in the end, the Black King Snake obviously couldn't bear it anymore, but it still gritted its teeth and persisted until it fainted. This eliminated Cang Nian's last bit of vigilance against the Black King Snake. Isn't it too inhumane that I still feel I cannot fully trust such an obedient Black King Snake that is willing to risk its life to complete my orders? Although he was reborn as a tiger, Cang Nian felt that the beautiful quality of human nature should not be discarded. Moreover, after the revival of spiritual energy, won't tiger dads and others still tend to be more rich, complete, and diverse in their emotions like humans? Otherwise, the feelings between the tiger couple would not be very deep, and they would mostly just be together instinctively driven by hormones. Human nature is no longer something unique to humans. It belongs to every intelligent life. Hearing Cang Nian's concerned inquiry, the Black King Snake, even though it was not in a very good condition, slowly twirled the tip of its tail. Then it opened its bloody mouth. Ah! Seeing this, Cang Nian understood that the Black King Snake wanted to drink water. So he quickly called out to the little sable. The little sable didn't waste any time. It waved its little claws and a halo appeared out of thin air above the Black King Snake's mouth. Then, a stream of water poured into the Black King Snake's mouth, and white smoke rose. Although while Cang Nian was hunting, the little sable had poured a lot of river water on the Black King Snake to cool it down. But it is difficult to remove the accumulated heat in the body in this way. When the Black King Snake is unconscious, its mouth is tightly closed and they cannot open it, so they can only wait for it to wake up. Ah! Seeing the Black King Snake drinking water to cool down, Cang Nian pointed at the dead elk beside him and called out. Do you want to eat meat? Cang Nian felt that the Black King Snake must need to eat after consuming so much energy before. Hiss! But after drinking the water, the Black King Snake shook its head, then lay on the ground and swam towards the depths of the ashes. Because the fire scared the prey away far away, Cang Nian spent a long time hunting. During this time, the fire had burned everything that could be burned in the area. Only some places with relatively high moisture content burned slowly and had not yet burned out, with some small sparks. Seeing this, Cang Nian hurriedly followed. The Black King Snake has just woken up from exhaustion and is not in good condition yet. Don't let it burrow into the ashes and get stuck. After a while, the Black King Snake came to the towering ashes. This is the remains after the mycelium army finally built a mushroom stalk like a tower and was burned to ashes. After burning into ashes, without the power to sustain it, it naturally collapsed, forming a small hill of ash that looked like a sand dune. Because a long time has passed, the hill of ash has not completely cooled down, but it is not that hot anymore. Even a human like the fisherman can grab a handful of it with his hands. What is this for? Cang Nian was quite confused. But then, the Black King Snake opened its big mouth, dove into the ashes, and swallowed in big gulps, leaving Cang Nian stunned. What is this for? Didn't you hunt the prey? Why are you still eating ashes? Is it because I don't hunt enough? But while he was daydreaming, the Black King Snake had already filled its belly with ashes, and the whole snake had become several times thicker and looked quite fat. After a while, the Black King Snake's body squirmed a few times and its belly deflated. Then it dove into the ashes again, swallowing them in big gulps, as if they were some delicious food. Awoo! Ugh! At this time, Cang Nian heard a sound of swallowing and then vomiting coming from the side. When I turned around, I saw that Tiger Brother had come running over and also ate a mouthful of ashes. But obviously, not only did it not find this thing delicious, but it choked itself and made itself dirty. Ah! After vomiting, Tiger Brother cursed and yelled. What? It's not tasty at all. I really believed the evil of that big black beast. Seeing its filthy appearance, Cang Nian subconsciously raised his claws, ready to claw at Tiger Brother. But thinking that the extent of his evolution this time was a bit too great and he was afraid of hurting his Tiger Brother, he retracted his claws in disappointment. If the strength is not enough, you won't be able to gain proficiency in the tearing and scratching skills, so it's better not to shoot. Oh? Tiger Brother took 2 steps back in confusion and caution. Why did it feel like there was some danger all of a sudden, and then the danger suddenly disappeared? Chapter 121. Without paying any more attention to Brother Tiger's foolish behavior, Cang Nian looked at the Black King Snake. Perhaps because it was once a pet, the Black King Snake is very smart. At least it knows how to think better than its Tiger Brother. Whether it was holding the snake-venomed Pippi in its mouth to detoxify him, or swallowing up the flames to resolve the crisis when the fisherman accidentally caught fire, it shows that it would not do things without reason like Tiger Brother. Since it ate the ashes, it means that the ashes are good for it. I don't know how many animals this mycelium army has eaten, and many of them should have special abilities and have evolved significantly. If my previous speculation on evolution is correct, does it mean that they are rich in a very large amount of evolutionary factors? If this evolution factor will not disappear due to burning, or it will be damaged but not completely damaged, does that mean that these ashes are enriched with a massive amount of evolutionary factors? The Black King Snake's devouring ability allows it to eat many things that it was previously unable to eat. So now we can absorb the evolution factor from the ashes. Looking at the Black King Snake trying hard to swallow, Cang Nian guessed. Thinking this, he came to the ashes and dug at them a few times with his claws. Hey? Is this the evolution factor I imagined? Originally, he just wanted to verify it casually without holding out any expectations, but Cang Nian had already evolved to the 3rd level of insight, allowing him to see very subtle things. There are very tiny reflections in the ashes. Looking more closely, it looks like some kind of crystal. However, this crystal is so small that it cannot be seen with normal human vision. So, Cang Nian popped out the claw blade, dipped a little saliva on the tip of the claw blade, and then used it to accurately stick a reflective crystal. The tiny crystal seemed to be stuck, and Cang Nian licked it with his tongue. No, it's too small. Even if it really has some effect on evolution, I can't sense such a tiny change. After finishing this task with great enthusiasm, Cang Nian finally realized how absurd his behavior was. He is not some precision instrument. But he still didn't want to give up. Then, he suddenly had an idea and his eyes lit up. Ah! Looking around, he quickly found the little sable and called out to it. Rub, rub, rub. Hearing Cang Nian's call, the little sable came over quickly. Squeak! My king, what's the matter? Ah! Cang Nian thought about it and described his thoughts carefully. Squeak! After hearing this, although the little sable didn't know why Cang Nian asked it to do this, it still did as he asked. The next second, its little paws waved twice, and the storage space containing water opened with a halo. However, this time, the direction of the light wheel's opening was not tilting downwards, but pointing upwards. Seeing this, Cang Nian hurriedly used his claws to pull the mycelium ashes into the halo. After not knowing how many times he had dug, Cang Nian saw a small pile of light emerging from the wheel. Apparently, the little sable's storage space is full. Seeing this, the little sable turned off the light wheel without Cang Nian's command. Snap! Just as Cang Nian was experimenting on how to peel the tiny crystals suspected to be evolution factors from the ashes, a crisp sound came from the Black King Snake. Turning around, I saw a crack opening on the Black King Snake's forehead. Outside the cracks is grey old skin. In the cracks is new leather with a jet black genuine leather texture. Even if it doesn't promote evolution, the things in the ashes should be very nutritious, otherwise the Black King Snake wouldn't shed its skin so quickly. Seeing this, Cang Nian became even more certain that there was something good in the ashes. Moreover, it was most likely that tiny crystal. Instead of standing there doing nothing, Cang Nian and Little Sable took the initiative to help the Black King Snake shed its skin. Although the Black King Snake can shed its skin by itself even without the help of other creatures. But now, the Black King Snake is struggling to shed its skin as quickly as possible. Apparently, it couldn't wait to continue eating dust. Seeing this, the fisherman also came over to help. Including Pippi. Although the dog's claws are not as flexible as those of cats, it can still hold Lao Pai in its mouth and pull it. Of course Pippi was happy to help the Black King Snake that saved his life. Seeing this, Tiger Brother felt that if he didn't go, he would seem a bit out of place, so he could only join in the fight reluctantly. Seeing this, the tiger parents decided not to join in the fun. They are too big, and if they gather together, they will not only be of no help, but will also easily fight with other animals, which will cause more trouble. Soon, with everyone's concerted efforts, the Black King Snake finally shed its old skin. Now, the Black King Snake has grown a lot bigger and its width has reached 50 centimeters. After freeing Lao Pai from his restraints, the Black King Snake continued to pounce into the ashes, devouring them with all its might. Master Tiger, is there anything good in this mushroom ash? At this time, the fisherman asked curiously. What he wants most now is a way to become stronger quickly. In this way, he will have enough strength to walk out of the jungle and return to Khan. He just saw a Black King Snake eating ashes from afar, and Cang Nian was also fiddling with it, so hope arose in his heart. He is also a person with normal IQ, and he has similar ideas to Cang Nian's guess. Ah! Cang Nian nodded. Since the Black King Snake eats the ash, it basically proves that there are good things in it. As for the fisherman, he didn't want to hide anything. When the mycelium army was about to rush out and the Black King Snake had not yet closed the fire break, I asked the fisherman to follow me in to buy time. The fact that this guy followed me showed that he was someone worth making friends with. This was obviously a mission that could fail if one was not careful, and the fisherman did not speak the same language as him, so he could just pretend not to understand and get away with it. But he didn't. Whatever the reason, it's worth affirming. Then we must find a way to take the good stuff out of this ashes. By then, we will definitely be far ahead of other creatures. Seeing Cang Nian nodded to confirm his guess, the fisherman excitedly waved his fist. Ah! Cang Nian nodded, then looked at the little sable. Taking into account the time spent skinning the Black King Snake, it should be about time. Hearing Cang Nian's order, the little sable waved its little paws. Then, a halo appeared upwards. Then, the little sable controlled the light wheel to tilt horizontally. After this period of training, the little sable discovered that the light wheel he summoned and connected to the storage space could actually move. However, after opening, moving is a bit difficult and the speed is relatively slow. As it moved, a stream of murky grey water poured down, soaking the ground. After a while, the light wheel finally stood upright on the ground. Oh, oh, oh. Then, the light wheel continued to rotate and turned downward. I saw a stream of brilliant sand, glittering with crystal light, sparkling in the light of the sunrise, floating in the air. The old man's eyes were also shining brightly under the crystal light of the fine sand. Chapter 122. Is this the good stuff from the ashes? Seeing the storage space of the little sable and what was poured out at the end, which was like the glittering and translucent sand covered by the Milky Way, the fisherman squatted down and exclaimed in amazement. Ah! Cang Nian ignored the fisherman's question and called out to the little sable, then pointed to a handful of crystal sand on the ashes. Eat this. There is so little of this thing that it can probably just be licked with your tongue. Therefore, Cang Nian was not sure whether he could feel any changes after eating it. But the little sable is the smallest in size. At the beginning of the spiritual energy revival tide, its size doubled, and now it has doubled again, weighing about 5 or 6 kilograms. If you eat it, the effects will be more obvious and you will feel it more clearly. Even the Black King Snake can swallow ashes in big mouthfuls. This crystal clear sand is the crystals that were precipitated from the ashes after being soaked in river water. Therefore, even if it is not a good thing that promotes evolution, it should not kill people if eaten. Squeak! Hearing Cang Nian's order, the little sable patted his high chest with his little paws without thinking, as if to say, "Don't worry. Leave it to me." Then, the little sable came to the small handful of crystal sand, licked its paws with its tongue, and then picked up the crystal sand. Then, it carefully licked the crystal sand on its paws. After going down a little at a time and not feeling anything strange, the little sable became more bold and grabbed a handful, which was almost 1/3 of all the crystal sand on the ground. Soon, the little sable brought more of the crystal sand into its mouth and swallowed it all. Seeing still no reaction, the little sable swallowed all the remaining crystal sand and touched its belly in confusion. Isn't that the case? The substance that can really promote evolution is actually soluble in water, and it was poured out. Originally he was full of expectations, but now there was no response. Cang Nian was a little confused, but more frustrated. It seemed that it was time to harvest the fruits, but they told me, "You were lying, we haven't even planted the seeds yet." Squeak. But just when Cang Nian was confused and frustrated, the little sable suddenly covered his stomach and squeaked. Beiji. The little sable suddenly fell to the ground, and then began to roll around, howling in its mouth as if it was in severe pain. What's going on? Is it poisonous? Seeing this, Cang Nian was startled and quickly jumped in front of the little sable and held it down. But the little sable struggled wildly, scratching itself with its pair of small claws, as if trying to tear off its fur. It's so hot. As soon as Cang Nian's claws touched the little sable, he felt its extremely high body temperature. Maybe it could be over 50 degrees. This is definitely not the body temperature of a normal creature. Wait. Could it be that this fine sand is useful? But the effect will not be seen immediately after taking it. Now after a while, the little sable digested the fine sand. And its current reaction is actually the same as when we ate wild boar meat before, our whole body felt hot. It's just that this stuff is concentrated, and a small handful is equivalent to the effect of a lot of evolved meat. So that's why the little sable's body temperature suddenly rose. Seeing this, a series of images flashed through Cang Nian's mind, and he instantly connected all the phenomena together. But now is not the time to verify or be surprised. Cang Nian quickly picked up the little sable and ran towards the river. The little sable's current condition urgently needs to be cooled down. Otherwise, you might be burned to death by the extremely high body temperature. Whoosh! Cang Nian's speed was so fast that the area originally covered by the mycelium army had been burned to ashes. For Cang Nian, it was as easy as walking on flat ground. He was like a hurricane, a flash of lightning, rushing towards the river, bringing with him a raging wind, and carrying the ashes in his path, splashing them into the sky. In less than 2.5 minutes, several kilometers of road were covered in an instant. Plop! Cang Nian quickly threw the little sable in his mouth into the river. As the little sable was submerged in the river water, its rapidly rising body temperature was relieved and soon dropped. Squeak! After a while, the little sable woke up and swam to the shore. But just as it was about to go ashore, it felt its body temperature starting to rise, so it could only stay in the water. Oh! Looking at the little sable popping its head out, Cang Nian asked with concern. Is your mind still clear? Are you crazy? Hearing Cang Nian's question, the little sable soaking in the water shook its head. Apart from the heat, there was nothing uncomfortable. Squeak! Then, the little sable said excitedly that he felt obviously stronger. Hearing this, Cang Nian carefully observed the little sable. It seems to have grown a bit in size, but probably not by much, I'm not sure. But since the little sable feels that it has become noticeably stronger, it shouldn't be wrong. Therefore, it is indeed possible to use the method of soaking the ashes and letting them settle to separate the evolutionary factors. If you take it directly, you need to control the amount, otherwise you will be like little sable, who couldn't bear it after taking it and almost burned himself to death. Looking at the little sable, Cang Nian was speculating in his heart. Squeak! After a while, the little sable climbed out of the river, indicating that it was fine. Gurgle! But then, Cang Nian heard a faint gurgling sound coming from its belly. It seems that after the main body is burned to ashes, the remaining evolutionary factors will greatly consume the energy in the body while promoting evolution. Therefore, extra food is needed to replenish the energy consumed during evolution. This gave Cang Nian a new speculation. Squeak! The little sable felt a little ashamed to see that he was hungry so quickly. I didn't do much work, so I just ate a full meal yesterday and I'm hungry today. Will the king think I am useless and a waste of food? Seeing the cute appearance of the little sable, Cang Nian smiled, then picked it up, gently threw it, and threw it accurately onto his back. Ah! Hold on tight. Go back and eat. After giving the little sable a warning and sensing that the little sable was still in shock, Cang Nian instinctively grabbed the fur on his back, and then he started up. It burst out at a terrifying speed and soon ran back to the small hill of ash turned from the burnt mycelium. At this time, the little sable was still unresponsive, and its little claws were holding on to Cang Nian's back hair for a long time without loosening. Already, here? When its body temperature soared before, it had lost consciousness and was being carried by Cang Nian, and had no idea of speed. Ah! Seeing that it didn't come down, Cang Nian urged it. Snap! Hearing Cang Nian's urging, the little sable was startled and jumped down immediately. Cang Nian came to the carcass of the elk that he had hunted last night, skinned it open skillfully, took out the fattest liver, and threw it to the little sable. Chapter 123 So, actually that kind of fine sand can promote evolution? But you can't eat too much at one time, otherwise you will overheat like Master Diao. After the little sable had eaten its fill and replenished its energy intake, the fisherman had more or less figured out the answer. Hearing this, Cang Nian nodded. That's it. So, we need to separate and collect the good things from these ashes. The method you used before, Mr. Tiger, should be to let it settle. This good thing has a high density and is insoluble in water, so it will sink to the bottom. Pour away the floating foam and dissolved ash water, and what's left is the fine sand. Seeing that Cang Nian confirmed his guess, the fisherman continued his analysis. Then, he couldn't help but wonder how he could help separate that fine sand. But after thinking for a while, he still had no idea. Although the separation method is very simple, he is now in the jungle and has no conditions. If he were in Khan, he could just hire a group of people to use buckets of water to dissolve the ashes, and then pour them out after they have settled. There is strength in numbers, so efficiency will definitely be high. But now, not only did he have no one, he also had no bucket. If you are in the south, you can also use bamboo as a natural container. But this is the snow mountains in northeast Daxia, where are the wild bamboos. Therefore, if he wanted to help, he could only see if his special abilities could be useful. Law order. Plastic bucket. Thinking of this, the fisherman shouted tentatively. But the result was not surprising. This thing could not be judged as successful by his supernatural power, and he could not create a bucket out of thin air. Seeing the sudden twitch of the fisherman, Cang Nian's eyes went blank. Isn't this a fool? Ah! Ignoring him, Cang Nian looked at the little sable and told it what to do next. Cang Nian himself has also experienced the same mental journey as the fisherman. Since the evolutionary factors that can promote evolution can be separated from the ashes, of course they must be separated as soon as possible. But after thinking about it, Cang Nian couldn't think of any conventional way to speed up the efficiency. Therefore, we can only separate them with the help of the storage space of the little sable. In fact, in the wild, there is really no more efficient way to store space than with sables. There are 8 cubic meters of space and nothing will stick to it. You can put 7 cubic meters of water and 1 cubic meter of ash in it at one time and it should be able to be separated. It just requires running back and forth many times. After all, this stuff is dust, and you can't carry a large pile of it in your mouth. Snap! Just then, a voice was heard from the ashes. Turning around, I saw that the black king snake was covered with a layer of grey again, and a crack appeared on the top of its head. Obviously, it's time to shed its skin again. Hey! By the way, the skin shed by the black king snake is actually a very good container. Although it may be a bit difficult to fill water, there is definitely no problem filling ash. In that case, if we peel off a snake skin completely, we can use it to hold the ashes and then pull them to the river, which will speed up the process. When he saw the black king snake, an idea emerged in Cang Nian's mind. Ah! Thinking of this, Cang Nian looked at the fisherman, pointed at the black king snake and the pile of ash, and explained to him with gestures, asking him to peel off the old skin of the black king snake completely. I understand. Master Tiger, do you want me to take Master Snake's skin completely and use it to hold these ashes? The fisherman listened for a while, looked for a long time, and finally understood what Cang Nian meant. Seeing that he finally understood, Cang Nian nodded heavily. Without the ability to speak, it is difficult for them to communicate with humans. Now when he communicates with Tiger Father, Tiger Mother, Tiger Brother, Little Sable, and Black King Snake, he only needs to follow his instinct and express what he wants to say by yelling, and they will roughly understand him. But the fisherman undoubtedly does not know tiger language. Without accurate and precise body language, it is quite difficult to make him understand the rather complicated thoughts. Seeing Cang Nian nod in affirmation, the fisherman walked over to the Black King Snake and began to skin it carefully. The Black King Snake had already understood Cang Nian's meaning, so it stayed where it was, and even cooperated with the fisherman in skinning it. It's just a matter of tearing off the old skin of the Black King Snake. Cang Nian himself, or even Hudi and the others, can do this kind of work. However, to ensure that the torn skin is intact and can be used to hold ashes, undoubtedly only the fisherman's flexible hands, which belong to human beings, can do it. Hey, finally it's peeled off. It took the fisherman a while to completely peel off the old skin of the Black King Snake. This was not the end. He pulled out a dagger and cut off the old skin at the place corresponding to the head of the Black King Snake. The old skin of a black king snake is actually quite tough. However, just like a piece of cloth, if it is intact, it will not be easily torn no matter how much you rub it. But if there are a few small cuts on the edge of the cloth, it will be too easy to break. After being trimmed by the fisherman, the old skin of the black king snake no longer has such gaps, and the whole skin is quite tough and will not break easily. Then, the fisherman rolled up the snake skin from the opening, just like the preparation before putting on stockings, and rolled it into a donut-like shape with a layer of membrane in the middle. However, this is much bigger than a donut. Even the skin of a black king snake that has just shed is 50 centimeters wide, much thicker than the waist of most people. With the container for ashes, the fisherman didn't hesitate. He walked to the pile of ashes and dug into it vigorously with his hands like a dog paddling. While digging, he also opened up the snakeskin bag a little bit, and after a while, the snakeskin bag was finally filled. The thick snakeskin bag, which was more than 30 meters long and half a meter wide, was filled to the brim like a sausage without any ropes tied around it. After doing all this, the fisherman felt a sense of accomplishment. After resting for a while, he grasped the mouth of the snakeskin bag tightly, lifted it onto his shoulder, and prepared to drag it. Plop! The next second, he fell flat on his face. When he got up again, his entire face was evenly covered with ashes, like a coal ball. Puh, puh, puh. Master Tiger, I can't pull it. The fisherman spat out the ashes in his mouth, and then he remembered how big the black king snake was. More than 30 meters long and 50 centimeters wide, this snakeskin bag, when full, takes up a full 3 or 4 cubic meters of space. Although the density of ash is quite small, this snakeskin bag of ash weighs at least about 1 ton. He has evolved, but not to the level of a Superman, so naturally he can't drag it. Oh! At this time, the tiger dad walked over with his chin raised, inadvertently showing off his angular, big, and solid muscles. This kind of physical work can only be done by a tough guy like me. Master Tiger, please. I'll tie the bag for you. The fisherman smiled awkwardly and flatteringly. Chapter 124. 42nd Day of Birth. Ding! Run 100 kilometers, run skill proficiency +1. 38/100, it just so happens that running back and forth can also help me improve my sprinting skills. It's like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Listening to the system prompt sound in his mind, Cang Nian's mouth corners slightly raised. It takes a certain amount of time for the tiger dad to drag a snakeskin bag of ashes. So Cang Nian took the little sable back and forth to collect the ashes, then flushed it with water to separate the evolutionary factors. During this process, the fisherman first washed the dust off his body, and then used the part that he had cut from the head of the black king snake's old skin to make a smaller bag to hold the separated evolutionary factors. The results of the little sable's previous food tasting undoubtedly indicated that the evolutionary factor needs to be consumed according to one's ability. The first evolutionary factor separated must be eaten directly, but if it cannot be finished in a short period of time, it must be stored. Cang Nian naturally supported this. After a new pool of evolutionary factors was separated, Cang Nian directed the little sable to eat it. This is not to treat it as a guinea pig, but Cang Nian thinks that if this is good for evolution, the little sable will first undergo a qualitative change, and its supernatural powers should also be enhanced, right? Even if no new skills are born, it should be reasonable to make the storage space that the little sable already has stronger, right? How can the storage space be made stronger? Of course the space has become bigger. If the storage space of the little sable becomes larger, the efficiency of separating the evolution factors will undoubtedly increase exponentially. Although spending time on this matter is profitable anyway, Cang Nian doesn't want to waste too much time on it. He has discovered that many of the short-evolved plants that had escaped from the jungle because of the fire have come back. Moreover, they all instinctively gathered at the ashes created by the burnt mycelium army and planted their roots in the ashes. Apparently, these guys also instinctively felt that there were good things in the ashes that could promote their evolution. In other words, this is a perception that only evolved plants have, and the black king snake is an outlier. For these evolved plants that would run away, Cang Nian's natural response was to kill them. Want to take advantage of me? Don't you even look at who you are? Unfortunately, these evolved plants were too light, and only a portion of them could increase the proficiency of his killing skills by a small amount. Cang Nian suspected that if the black king snake had not realized the benefits of the mycelium ashes, he would have left directly. By then, the evolved plants attracted by the ashes will occupy this place one after another, and I will just think that the wood ash is beneficial to plant growth and ignore it completely. In that case, maybe this thing can produce a lot of powerful evolved plants. Therefore, Cang Nian hopes to separate all the evolutionary factors from the ashes as soon as possible and control them himself. Squeak! The little sable followed Cang Nian's instructions, soaked itself in the water, then took the snakeskin tray handed to it by the fisherman and ate in small bites. After a while, its body began to heat up, but not as exaggerated as before when it had eaten too much at once. Sizzle! At the same time, white smoke was coming out of the little sable's head, as if it was taking a sauna. It took the little sable 10 minutes to finish this plate of evolution factor. At this time, Tiger Dad had already dragged back a snakeskin bag of ashes. Oh! Seeing this, Cang Nian looked down at the little sable and asked about its condition. Can I eat it again? Squeak! The little sable felt it and nodded. Then, Cang Nian fed the little sable a full amount of evolutionary factors separated from the ashes of 10 directions. All I can say is that the content of evolutionary factors in the ashes is too low. Only about 1 kilogram of evolutionary factors was produced from the 10 directions of ashes. In addition, after the little sable has eaten some evolutionary factors for a while, it must eat some fresh meat, otherwise it will be extremely hungry. As a result of such excessive eating, the little sable's body size doubled visibly, reaching more than 10 kilograms. Snap! At this moment, Cang Nian heard a crisp clicking sound, and he thought it was the Black King snake shedding its skin again. No, the Black King snake is still eating dust over there. But then he remembered that he was by the river and the Black King snake was on the other side of the ashes, so how could it appear here? Squeak! Then, looking down, the little sable seemed to be enduring something, and its body was growing bigger like a balloon. Qualitative change! Cang Nian thought in amazement. After a few minutes, the little sable finally stopped making painful sounds, and its body weight increased to about 20 kilograms. In just one day, the little sable doubled its weight from 5 kilograms, such an amazing change. Ah! Seeing this, Cang Nian couldn't wait to ask what the little sable felt. Squeak! The little sable, no longer in pain, nodded happily, and then danced with joy to show it to Cang Nian. First, it waved its little paws, and a halo appeared in the water. The river water rushed into the light wheel frantically, and it took a long time to fill it up. Then, the little sable waved its paw again, and a halo appeared in the open space. Wow wow wow! A thick water column made the river water pour down. With the same size of light wheel, it took more than 3 times longer than before to pour out all the water. The storage space has increased in size. It's increased by so much. Seeing this, Cang Nian was very surprised. This is a qualitative leap. The original space of the little sable was 8 cubic meters. Now, more than 3 times, that's at least 24 cubic meters. Now, 3 cubic meters of ashes can be separated at a time, and the efficiency is greatly improved. Squeak! Seeing Cang Nian so happy, the little sable became very proud. He stood up with his chin almost raised to the sky. However, it waved its paws, signaling Cang Nian not to get excited. Any new skills? Seeing this, Cang Nian had some vague guesses. Then, he saw the little sable waving its 2 little paws together. Buzz! Immediately, 2 light wheels appeared at the same time. Can 2 storage spaces be opened at once? Is the other space the same size? Seeing this scene, Cang Nian was even happier. Doesn't this mean that the efficiency of separating evolutionary factors has doubled again? However, the next second, the little sable kicked its legs and jumped towards one of the halos. Then, something happened that stunned Cang Nian. Before the little sable on this side jumped in, the little sable's head had already popped out of the halo over there. Snap! Under Cang Nian's extremely astonished gaze, the little sable successfully jumped into the first light wheel and jumped out from the second light wheel. What the hell? A space gate! At this moment, the fisherman who also witnessed this magical scene expressed his own thoughts on behalf of Cang Nian, his jaw almost dropping to the ground. Chapter 125. It's really a space gate. The little sable took off directly. Seeing this scene, Cang Nian was also amazed. This is one of the most typical skills among all the spatial abilities in various film, television, and literary works. Erasing distance and crossing space, this is undoubtedly a top-notch method with infinite strategic value. Then, Cang Nian couldn't wait to ask Xiao Zidiao how big and how far could this space door be opened? This is the key to this skill. Squeak. Hearing this, the little sable thought for a moment, then demonstrated to Cang Nian with gestures. The two original space gates closed instantly after the little sable passed through. At this moment, the little sable waved its claws, and two halos, which were equally not far apart, opened. But this time, its diameter is expanding rapidly. After a while, it expanded to a diameter of about 50 centimeters. But when it reached this point, the space gate could no longer expand and froze. Obviously, this is the maximum size of the little sable's space gate. And the little sable looked like it was struggling. Squeak. Then, one of the two space gates disappeared instantly. The next second, it appeared 10 meters away from the space door in front of the little sable. At this time, the little sable was already shaking with great effort. Snap! In just a few seconds, the two space gates disappeared at the same time, and the little sable fell to the ground, gasping for breath. It seems it's too early to be happy. The little sable has just acquired this new skill, and its strength is very limited. The maximum size is only 50 centimeters in diameter, and the maximum distance is only 10 meters. This effect can only be used for short distance evasion. Seeing this, Cang Nian thought with some regret. This time, the little sable took off, but it didn't fly high. With a diameter of half a meter, I can now pass through it. But a distance of 10 meters is really useless. It doesn't even take 2.5 seconds to reach my maximum speed. However, Cang Nian did not show his disappointment. After all, now that we have a skill like the space gate, although the distance is not enough now, once the little sable undergoes another qualitative change, the distance will definitely be longer. The little sable doesn't have a very strong sense of security. How can I undermine its confidence? So, Cang Nian prepared to praise the little sable so that it would not think that its new skills were useless. So short. But as soon as Cang Nian shouted, the fisherman next to him was shocked. A distance of 10 meters is not very good even for human speed. Moreover, the space door of the little sable can only be opened in a circular shape. Cang Nian's family are all creatures that can run on 4 legs, so this is very convenient. But the fisherman is a human being, and if he wants to pass through the little sable's space door, he can only jump in. Squeak! The little sable, who had worked so hard to demonstrate the space gate, suddenly stood up and cursed angrily when he heard the fisherman look down on his new skill. If it didn't know that the fisherman's law was very powerful, it would have grabbed the fisherman's collar with its little paws and spit at his face. I'm sorry, Master Diao. Master Diao, don't be angry, I just said it unintentionally. This skill of yours will definitely become better in the future. Seeing this, the fisherman realized that he had hurt the little sable's self-esteem and quickly apologized. And Cang Nian called out to the little sable. Don't pay attention to him. Let's continue. After the evolution, the little sable gained new skills, but they were not practical enough. Then continue to eat the evolution factors and evolve qualitatively again. By then, I will definitely continue to become stronger. Squeak! Hearing Cang Nian's voice, the little sable nodded heavily. The king is still the best. Then, Cang Nian separated out another batch of evolutionary factors. This time, because the storage space of the little sable has greatly increased, the evolution factors obtained at one time are more than 3 times as much as before. This is also the reason why Cang Nian gave the little sable the first thing to eat after he discovered the efficacy of the evolution factor. If the little sable eats it, it can greatly increase the speed of acquiring evolution factors. The size of little sable's storage space before was 8 cubic meters. This time it is more than 3 times, but not exactly 3 times. Therefore, the improvement should not be directly multiplied. It was 222 before, is it 333 now? So will the size of the next storage space be 444? 64 cubic meters, such a large space can separate the evolutionary factors in the ashes of all directions at once, right? Cang Nian was guessing in his heart. Squeak! At this time, the little sable cried out a few times in panic. Seeing this, Cang Nian looked over quickly. But nothing unusual happened to the little sable. His temperature was normal, his thinking was normal, and he did not show any injuries. Etc. Is your temperature normal? Thinking of this, Cang Nian's heart sank. And after listening to the meaning of the little sable's cry again, he became even more certain. What the little sable means is that it no longer feels any stronger after taking the evolution factor. The fact that its body temperature has not changed also means that the evolutionary factors can no longer promote its body to consume large amounts of energy and accelerate evolution. But this is reasonable. If it was before the spiritual energy revival tide, some of us evolved and some did not, but the degree of evolution was not high. So at that time it was considered level 0, and was infinitely moving towards being a level 1 evolved creature. The tide of spiritual energy revival is equivalent to a qualitative change, and we have all become first-order evolved creatures. Now, the little sable has successfully undergone a qualitative change by swallowing the evolution factor, which can be called a second-order evolved creature. These evolutionary factors are what are left after the mycelium is burned. If it was a single evolved creature, having eaten so many other animals, it should have advanced to a second-level evolved creature long ago. But the mycelium army basically divided the prey equally, so although they were very powerful when assembled, they were still essentially first-order evolved creatures. So the little sable can evolve from level 1 to level 2 by eating the evolution factor they left behind. If it eats more, the effect will be minimal. Combining the cry of the little sable and the phenomenon, Cang Nian immediately analyzed the problem. Obviously, his plan of letting the little sable continue to eat evolution factors and become stronger had failed. Forget it, since the limit of eating evolution factors is another qualitative change, evolving into a second-order evolutionary creature. Then we can let the little sable stop and it's our turn to eat. Each of our evolved creatures advances once, and we are one step ahead of all the evolved creatures, which is a considerable lead. Although he felt a little disappointed because his fantasy was shattered, since that was the fact, Cang Nian had no choice but to accept it. Then he looked at the little sable and instructed it to continue separating the evolutionary factors. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.